on number 25 North Texas. Our pregame coverage starts right here with Fletch and JR at 12:45, and John and Rich will have the kick around 2:45. In NFL news, Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy has a, quote, very, very small hairline fracture in his right hand, according to Coach Kevin O'Connell, and will not play in the team's Christmas Day game against Detroit. Rookie backup Max Brosmer, I'll give you $1 if you tell me where he went to school, John, will start, but for the Vikings have not ruled out McCarthy for playing in their final regular season game against Green Bay. Tonight, we have Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when the team takes on the Suns. Our pregame coverage starts at 5:45, and tip will be around 6.
Now you don't just hear it, you see it. iHeartRadio Highlights brings you the best show moments, the wild takes, hot reactions, and clips everybody's talking about. Search Fox Sports Radio in the iHeartRadio app to experience Fox Sports like never before. Furnished by Genuine.
It's John and Jim.
Let's face it, in your particular field, you're the top minds.
Your favorite pair.
Interesting job you guys have.
Very smart and very modern.
They are John and Jim.
That's all you need to know about me.
A new song for the Padres.
Curveball, and that's hit hard into right field by Swung Moon. This should be a double, and it is.
Is AJ done, or is there more to come? And the Aztecs get back on track.
Dixon Waters, mid-post Guath. Guath sends it in for Heidi, and Heidi slams it again.
It's a week off before starting Mountain West play next Tuesday. And could Philly Jim become a thing?
Such a lame question.
We'll talk about it from the studios of San Diego Sports 760 with John and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is John and Jim, hour one of it on a Tuesday afternoon right before the holidays. We do want to wish everyone out there a happy and safe holiday season, a Merry Christmas if you are celebrating. And we're with you throughout the holiday season. And by we, I mean me and Brent. Here's the interesting thing about Jim's announcement last week, and there's a lot to get to, including Ryan O'Hearn leaving for Pittsburgh of all places. Here's the interesting thing, Brent, about Jim's announcement. And by the way, we will roast the hell out of him on Monday. His quote-unquote final show is coming up on Monday. You need to be here Monday for his roast. He talked to Ben Fadden about this. He's been making the media rounds. Jim has been since he's left the show. He's done more media since leaving the show than he did working in radio. And I'm kidding. But I heard him say with Ben Fadden that he basically wanted it to be a roast of himself, which I'm all for. So we'll do that on Monday. But here's the interesting thing, and Brent, you'll appreciate this. So I see 45 minutes ago from Jim on social media. This was on X. He has two photos, and they're of like baking sheets with cookies on them. One is like a chocolate cookie, and the other is like a plain cookie, whatever, right? On baking sheets. And it says, quote unquote, what are you going to do since you're not doing the radio show anymore? Like what Aaron's saying. And he says, become a baker, I guess, right? It's a picture of these baking sheets. And so I just replied 2 seconds ago, right before the start of the show. I'm like, well, you could do the show since you're working until 12:29. Like if it's so slow in Pennsylvania with the snow and the rain and I've got nothing to do and I'm switching careers, dude, they're paying you until 12:29. You could do the show if you so desired.
It's funny that you said that he's bored. He texted me earlier this morning, just a meme of somebody took like this Avengers trailer and they replaced like the house in front of it with Peter Griffin's house from Family Guy, and replaced with this baby with Stewie, and that was it.
That was just it.
He just randomly sent that.
So he's like, okay, so he's in the midst of like this career change and location change. If you missed it Friday, he gave you the reasoning, which is completely understandable, that he has moved with his family and his wife, Erin, from San Diego to Philadelphia. So here's the one thing I do want to make sure we get this point across, that while Jim's final show is on 12:29, this show with me and Brent is going nowhere. In fact, there'll be a show literally the next day on 12:30. And then we'll be with you throughout 2026. I actually just signed a 3-year deal that kicks off in January of 2026. So, all that we ask of our listeners is if you've supported the show previously, please support it moving forward. And if you like the work that we're doing here, and I will have a co-host at some point, hopefully early in 2026. Stay tuned on that. That is a developing situation, but the show will remain. Sports Talk Radio here on San Diego Sports 760 is going to remain. Of course, you're going to hear us with Aztec games moving forward as well. So stay tuned is what I would say about 2026 and beyond. But yeah, Jim's final day is going to be a week from yesterday. We'll have We'll have a final show. It's like a 3-hour show because I think we have Monday Night Football next Monday, I think at 5:15. So we'll have some guests on hopefully next Monday as well. We'll roast Jim properly. We'll celebrate the holidays. We'll send him off. And then the next version of the show will begin on 12:30. And we'll have tons in store for you in 2026 as well. So like I said the other day, if you're interested in the job, iHeartRadio.com/careers. I'm only partially kidding. So here's where I wanted to start today. By the way, Lucky Sutton, San Diego State tailback, will join us coming up at 5 p.m. He made an announcement that he is returning for his senior season, which is a huge boost for the Aztecs football program in 2026. He's had a marvelous year. He's run for over 1,200 yards. He'll be the starting tailback in the New Mexico Bowl that you can hear right here on 760 that Brent just told you about in the update on Saturday afternoon. And he's going to be back in 2026. This was one of the big keys for the Aztecs this past year was all the retention, all the players that were back. Lucky Sutton, among a few players that have announced they will be back in 2026, but it bodes very well for Sean Lewis and San Diego State football fans. But I want to start with Ryan O'Hearn. And this was seemingly out of nowhere. I mean, here we are. Christmas holiday is just a couple of days away. And the Pittsburgh Pirates have been like trying to sign players over the course of the offseason, right? They're interested in this player. They're interested in that player. And they finally, I guess, kind of made a small splash today. By Pirate standards, it's probably a large splash. They spent $29 million. Have they ever spent $29 million in free agency? They just spent $29 million, 2-year deal with Ryan O'Hearn, the left-handed hitting corner DH bat that the Padres had in the second half of 2025. Like for the Pirates, that's a really significant deal. And for the Padres, we're left with one of the questions we had at the end of the regular season or the postseason and into the offseason. Even though a lot of the offseason conversation has been about pitching, we always go back to, well, remember how 2024 ended? They couldn't hit the last 2 games against the Dodgers. All right, maybe it was an aberration, right? Then you watch 2025 play out. They had no power all year long. Would they finish in home runs? 29th? 28th or 29th in home runs hit. It's not as simple as that. It's not like you have to lead baseball in homers, but there is a correlation between teams that slug and teams that win in the postseason. The Padres tried to overcome that. They couldn't. And then it was very glaring in game 3 because, again, they just could not hit in a decisive game. Now, Ryan O'Hearn was one of those guys that provided you a decent amount of slug in a corner position. I think the issue for Ryan O'Hearn is he's typically been a platoon player in his career that emerged as an everyday player in 2025. And I think the question moving forward is that the player that he's going to be? And were the Padres willing to commit $15 million a year to Ryan O'Hearn as an everyday player? And were they going to bat him against left-handed and right-handed pitching? And I guess for whatever reason, and maybe they've got some grand plan in effect, they thought that O'Hearn maybe was expendable, or maybe Pittsburgh overpaid for Ryan O'Hearn. I would say this, that just on its face, I do think it's a loss. I don't know how significant. I think you look at the total numbers last year for Ryan O'Hearn, he hit for power, and he hit both left-handed and right-handed pitching. And his numbers, I didn't even realize they were as good as they were in San Diego. Like, I thought the batting average was lower. He hit 276. He had a 736 OPS, which isn't overly significant because his OPS in Baltimore was 837. But you combine his year, and in 540 plate appearances, hit 17 home runs. Padres didn't have a lot of guys that, if given 600 plate appearances, were hitting 20 home runs last year. So I guess they're still seeking the first baseman of the future. I thought maybe it would be Ryan O'Hearn. I think by and large, Padres fans don't want it to be Luis Ariz, who's also a free agent. Maybe it's going to be a right-handed bat. But Ryan O'Hearn, 2 years, $29 million, Brent, to the Pittsburgh Pirates today.
It kind of, especially the way you phrased it, it just kind of, with, that being a big splash for the Pirates, this is their Will Myers. They overpaid for somebody just so they can say they signed somebody, so they have another person that they can put on posters besides Paul Skeens. And it's almost like they've heard all off season, whether it's people throwing trade rumors around just to throw them around, or them hearing about how, oh yeah, Skeens hates it there and it's only a matter of time before he leaves and blah blah blah. Maybe this is going to be kind of how, remember, the Padres did that with Will Myers, partially because they needed somebody to put on like posters for the All-Star game that one year. But I kind of wonder if maybe this is their first step in saying, look, if we don't spend money and at least, try to compete, we're going to have this like unicorn of a pitcher and he's just going to walk right out the front door and we're never going to recover from this.
I think he may regardless, no matter what they try to do. And maybe not. Maybe there'll be a path where the Pirates, I don't think there is a path. I don't think the Pirates are able to keep Paul Skeens. Maybe they can keep him for an extra year before he demands a trade along the way. I do think that's possible. And then to bring it back to how it impacts the Padres, the one thing I would say, and we credited them for re-signing Michael King. I really do. I think it's a significant retainment, so to speak, via free agency. And the moves that they've made here over the course of the offseason, some of them under the radar, some of them more topical, like Michael King. We still go back to this, that you might say, well, they got a very good core. And I say that. I think that Manny Machado, Fernando Tatis Jr., Jackson Merrill, you can throw Xander Bogaerts in there because he's part of their core, whether he's produced or not. I say they have a really nice core, but also some part of me in there is like, well, if you're just going to run it back, aren't you running it back with expected similar results? Because 2025 was not a good offensive year. Like, we can spin it any way we want, and we can say whatever you want. Sophomore slump for Jackson Merrill, who wasn't fully healthy, or Manny was on tired legs in the second half of the year, or Tatis is going to bounce back in 2026. All of this is possible. All of this is possible. But if you're just going to quote unquote run it back, then don't be surprised if results are comparable. I'm not saying identical. I'm not saying they can't go from 28th in home runs hit to 20th in home runs hit, but don't expect them to go from the 28th best team in slug or the third worst team in slug to the third best team in slug. And is Ryan O'Hearn taking you from 28th to third with a full season? Of course he isn't, but they still need to answer the question. I think the point is this. They need to answer the question. What are they going to do at first? And do they have the money to accomplish it? Or are they going to kind of settle, figure it out over the course of, the start of spring training, give some guys opportunities via minor league invites? They're going to spend some money, I would think, at first /DH. Yes, they have. Again, have they been a little left-handed heavy? I think they've been left-handed heavy. So you could argue replace a left-handed bat with a right-handed bat. And it's still only December. We can get into some of the other names that are available via free agency on the other side, and we will. I just thought heading into the offseason, I thought it was much more likely Ryan O'Hearn would return than Michael King. Now, I'm not complaining about getting King as opposed to O'Hearn. If I had to choose one over the other, I'm choosing what the Padres have chosen. So maybe ultimately they did need to make a choice. I get it, different positions. But if you only have so much money, are you going to use your $15 million a year and put it on O'Hearn and not bring back Michael King at $25 a year? Or are you going to use your $25 million and use it on Michael King and not bring back Ryan O'Hearn for $10 or $15 million a year? And I completely understand what they did. The question now becomes, where do they go from here at a corner position? A very important position, especially for a team that needs to increase slug and power in 2025, or excuse me, in 2026. All right, so we'll react to that on the other side. What are some of the options? Lucky Sutton, San Diego State, outstanding tailback, local product right out of San Diego County. He'll join us coming up at 5 p.m. We're here until 5:45 because we have Lakers basketball tonight. Pre-game coverage will begin at 5:45, but we're just underway here until 6 p.m. Where do the Padres go after Ryan O'Hearn signs a 2-year deal with the Pittsburgh Pirates of all teams for $29 million? We'll give you some options on the other side. Here until 5:45 in Lakers basketball. This is John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, San Diego Sports 760 has Lakers basketball tonight. They'll be on the road taking on the Phoenix Suns. I was just there. Whatever it's called, mortgagemutual.com matchup center, whatever. Pre-game coverage at 5:45 right here in your home for Lakers basketball in San Diego Sports 760. We will get into Aztec hoops. I tried making a comp between San Diego State basketball this year and what we could see out of Padres baseball next year. I'll explain that further coming up, maybe in about 15 minutes or so. John and Jim with you until 5:45 again in Lakers basketball. I want to thank Ben Fadden for putting this list together. So now that Ryan O'Hearn has left for Pittsburgh, 2 years, $29 million, if you missed that, here's a list of available free agent first basemen. And you got some journeyman and veteran guys at the tail ends of careers. So this list includes like Paul Goldschmidt, Reese Hoskins, Carlos Santana, who's been around for forever, Wilmer Flores, Ty France, who we love, Aztec for life, professional hitter, Dom Smith. And then, of course, there's this name, Luis Ariz. Now, again, this isn't personal, but Luis Ariz has very little value at a corner position for me, and I think probably for most major league teams as well, because, again, one of the prerequisites of playing a corner, and maybe one of the prerequisites in general right now in Major League Baseball, is you just have to have some amount of slug in your bat. Otherwise, you're expendable unless you can actually hit 350. And there was a period of time where Luis Ariz was kind of proving people wrong or doing things unconventionally because he was hitting 30 points higher than anyone else in the sport. And when for your career you hit 317, and when you, for example, hit 354 in 2023, or 316 in 2022, or 321 in 2020, then again, it's a different conversation when you're getting on base 40% of the time. But the issue with Luis Ariz, and this is not a surprise for anyone, is that A, the batting average came down last year, and B, when his batting average comes down, he is not getting on base any other way. He's as big of a free swinger as there is in the sport. So his on-base percentage is going to be incredibly low. It's going to be very close to his batting average. And then his slug, it just doesn't make any sense for a slug where it is like in the mid to high 300s if you're playing first base, because that just doesn't equate, especially for a team like San Diego that isn't getting the power elsewhere. As good of a hitter as Manny Machado is, and he's a brilliant hitter, likely a first ballot Hall of Fame hitter, a guy that could reach 3,000 hits, could reach 500 home runs, but he'll never have a season in his major league career in all likelihood where he hits 40 home runs in one season. As good of a hitter as Jackson Merrill is, I love Merrill as a hitter. All fields, clutch, hits lefties and righties. He's not going to be a guy that's going to hit high 30s home runs consistently in his major league career. I think most people feel that way. I always thought Fernando Tatis Jr. was going to be that player. Unfortunately, he hasn't panned out to be that player. Is he a good hitter? Of course he's a good hitter. Nobody's discounting his ability or how good of a hitter he is. But, I mean, the problem is, like, if I had Dan Zimborski from Fangraphs on the show, he would tell me the best predictor of future success is what you did last year in the major leagues. And the issue for someone like Tatis is that last year he hit 25 home runs, and he hasn't hit more than 25 home runs in a season since 2021. 2021 in baseball terms is a lifetime ago. That's 5 years. Like, you had different presidents. Well, maybe the same, but I mean, you had different price of gas 5 years ago. Like 5 years in sports. Look at Phillip Rivers. 5 years is a long time. We credit Phillip Rivers, but we're not asking him right now to bring an NFL team to the postseason as a 44-year-old. Maybe you were asking him to do that as a 38-year-old. So listen, am I still high on Fernando Tatis Jr.? Yes, I am. I'm still hopeful. I don't know how confident, but I'm hopeful that a guy that's been more of an 800 OPS guy over the last 3 years can be a 900 OPS guy at some point in 2026 and moving forward. But again, we have to deal with the evidence that we have. And the evidence is this: Machado's not getting younger. Tatis hasn't had one of these out of the world type years since 2021. Bogarts isn't getting younger. We love Merrill as a hitter, but he's never hitting 40 home runs in a season. So why would you bring back Luis Ariz? You don't pair Luis Ariz with that combination of a lineup or hitters. It's a lineup that is capable of more than they showed in 2025. We all agree. but how much more can be squeezed out of them when you have forces working against them? What do you mean you have forces working against them? I'm talking about Machado's age and Bogart's age. And I'm talking about the lack of payroll flexibility as well. And, you have like a Gavin Sheets under contract. Is Sheets going to replicate what he did a year ago? So there's questions when it comes to the lineup. I like the way they're building this team too. I build it to Petco Park. I build it around pitching. I try to retain my, top flight starting pitching. I want to build around a strong bullpen. I think they've done that. I think you want to rely on speed, which to some extent they've done. So I get it. I'm not saying they have to be the fifth best power team in baseball. I don't think they do, but they kind of need to be a top half slug team or power team in baseball for me. Because if you're bottom half, it's just very wishful to think that you're actually going to make one of those runs that we're all hoping that they can make in a postseason coming up. So it's a long way of me saying that, maybe there's a flyer in there, maybe among those 6 or 7 names I gave you that Ben Fadden pointed out earlier today on social media, maybe someone in there is capable of putting together, a full season and hitting 25 plus home runs and helping you improve your offense in 2026. But I can pretty confidently say it's not Luis Ariz. And that's even if he has a better year, because he hit 292 last year. I think I have that right. Hit 292 with a 719 OPS. I mean, even if that went up to what he did the year before with San Diego, which is 744, I'm looking for more out of first base. I'm looking for 800 if I can get it out of first base. And the reason the margins are going to matter is because, again, there's no one else you're falling back on other than with hope that Fernando Tatis Jr. does that, or Jackson Merrill does that, or Manny Machado does that in 2026. All right, just getting started here. We do have, what's our giveaway today? Do we have any giveaway? No giveaway. There's your giveaway. Your giveaway is Happy Holidays from John and Jim on San Diego Sports 760. Lucky Sutton, Aztecs tailback, will join us coming up at 5 p.m. He's had a marvelous year. He announced on social media yesterday he'll be back for his senior season. He will join us live coming up at 5 p.m. We're here until 5:45. Lakers basketball this evening on San Diego Sports 760 in Phoenix. I'm going to make a Aztec basketball to San Diego Padres baseball comp on the other side involving 2026. So that is next. Don't go anywhere. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. The Aztec football team is getting ready for Saturday's New Mexico Bowl when they take on number 25 at North Texas. Our pregame coverage begins at 12:45. John and Rich will have the kick around 2:45. In NFL news, Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy has a, quote, very, very small hairline fracture in his right hand, according to Coach Kevin O'Connell, and will not play in the team's Christmas Day game against Detroit. Rookie backup Max Brosmer will start, but the Vikings have not ruled out McCarthy from playing in their final regular season game against Green Bay. Tonight, we have Lakers basketball in San Diego Sports 760 when the team takes on the Suns. Our pregame coverage starts at 5:45, and the tip is going to be a little after 6. Choosing the right home service company isn't just about fixing what's broken. It's about trusting who's in your home. That's why homeowners count on Anderson for friendly professional service that keeps everything running right. Visit AndersonPHA.com.
I like it. All right, John and Jim.
It took me this long to realize this is our last show before Christmas. So we might as well play Christmas music.
You know what? I like it. Merry Christmas here from the island of San Diego. With you until 5:45.
That's what it's going to be in a couple hours.
The next John and Jim is Jim's last show. That'll be on Monday. So Monday we'll have Jim's final show. He'll be in Philly. I'll be in San Diego. We will pour one out for Jim, so to speak, on John and Jim coming up on Monday. And then we've got a full slate of shows for you next week after Jim's final day into 2026 as well. So we'll be with you throughout this holiday season into 2026. Again, Jim's final show will be next Monday. And then the next iteration of this show will begin next Tuesday. I had forgotten about this. Thank you to James, who had followed up on social media with this quote from Manny Machado after Game 3 of the Padres-Cubs wildcard series. So remember, after Game 3, Padres once again disappointingly go out because of the manner in which they went out. Couldn't score, offense anemic, same old story to end 2025 to 2024. And then the first question is always about like, well, where do you go from here? And what's the offseason going to look like? And there were a couple of really interesting things that Manny Machado said in the immediate aftermath of the season. This was from our former colleague, Marty Caswell, inside the clubhouse at Wrigley Field immediately following that Game 3 loss for Manny Machado.
Manny, how confident are you that the organization will make the right changes to go ahead and make sure that you guys are in a better position for next season?
I mean, I hope so. I mean, there's no better way than what we did this year with what we had. I mean, cut payroll. And we do what we do. Hopefully we bring back O'Hearn, we bring back all the guys that need to be here. I mean, the team is ready. This team's ready. We fell short this year, but I mean, we're confident in the group that we have that we can go out there and repeat it every single year. So, I hope they continue to do that and listen to us and ultimately listen to the fans that want to bring championships to City San Diego.
Two things that were interesting in that, and I remember talking about it in real time. Manny Machado specifically called out ownership and said we cut payroll. Now, they were over the tax threshold in 2025. They were one of 6 or 7 teams over the threshold. So it's hard to be overly critical of their spend, not to mention the fact that a lot of their spend is tied up in players like Manny Machado. But he said they cut payroll. I'd have to do the deeper dive at the payroll comparison between 2024 in 2025. My guess is, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, it was very similar. And by the way, our text line is open 70470, start it with the word team. At 70470, start it with the word team. Or you can call us, by the way, if you want to react to any of this. Now that it's more of a solo show, phone lines are always open. 877-767-4760. Again, 877-767-4760. So he kind of holds the organization accountable, even if it's not accurate or not in terms of their spend in 2025. And then the only player he specifically mentions, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brent, the only player he mentioned in there was Ryan O'Hearn. He didn't say Luis Ariz. He didn't say Michael King. He didn't say Dylan Cease. He didn't say Robert Suarez. The only player he mentioned in there was Ryan O'Hearn, which I think speaks to the importance of O'Hearn, not just on the team, but in the clubhouse, or not just on the field, but around the team. And again, we only saw him for 50 games. This was not the difference for the Padres in the second half. The reason they made the postseason was not Ryan O'Hearn. The reason that, they stretched out to a third game was not Ryan O'Hearn. The difference in winning and losing a World Series is not Ryan O'Hearn. But is he a piece that helps you get where you want to go? I think is a fair and legitimate question. And why else would Manny Machado have said that? Like, why would you have mentioned by name Ryan O'Hearn if he was just a guy? To me, he's a veteran guy that had been through it, that was in the midst of a career year, that showed power at times as a Padre. He certainly showed it last year across Baltimore and San Diego. So I do find that interesting with the benefit of 2 months of hindsight that we go back on it. And I wonder what Manny Machado is thinking right now of the Padres offseason. Is he content with what they've done? Is he happy? Is he disappointed? I mean, up until Michael King, what had they done? Very little. They'd been very quiet. A number of the teams around baseball this year have been very quiet. I thought that the return of Michael King was not enough for everyone, but I think it was enough for a lot to say, okay, they're committed. They're going to once again be a playoff contender in 2026. Now, I made this point, Brent, on, I don't even know what it was, last week. All the days run into each other. It's like deja vu all over again or whatever, Groundhog's Day here. But I made the point that I think the Padres in 2026 have a chance to look a little bit like San Diego State men's basketball from 2025 into 26, this 25-26 season. The reason I say it is this, that I think the best for the Aztecs on the floor is still ahead with this unit that had a player like Reese Dixon Waters coming off a full year of injury, a player like Magoon Guath that came off a significant knee injury. I think we'll see the fruits of them, that pair, for example, in the second half of the year. I look at, and I think that's going to bode well for the Aztecs. And I think they're going to be a contender, obviously, as they're expected to be. But I think that will play out in the second half of 2026 in conference play. I think with the Padres, I think heading into the year, people are going to say, well, Michael King is back and Joe Musgrove is back. Well, therefore, the Padres are just immediately back. And this is what I would say, that give it a little bit of time. If you think Michael King from start 2 is going to be the guy going 6 2/3 innings, allowing 1 run or fewer, let him work himself back into health, even if he's fully healthy, because it takes time. He threw just 70 innings last year. And Joe Musgrove, before you're critical, give him the month or 2 ramp up off Tommy John. We haven't seen him for 18 months, but I think my general point is this. If you get into the second half of the year and you've got the trade deadline that could be to your advantage, and you get Musgrove and King looking like the players and the pitchers that we've seen previously, all of a sudden maybe it's put together fully in the second half of the year and you're playing your best baseball heading into the postseason should they qualify. I'm hoping that's the case again with San Diego State. It's all put together. They're getting healthier. They're improving in January and February. And again, with good fortune in play, maybe they'll find themselves in a position to contend in the Mountain West and potentially return to the NCAA tournament in 2026. But that's my one concern, that people are going to go into the season and say, well, I thought Michael King was going to throw 180 innings. Well, hold on. He threw 70 last year. Oh, I thought Joe Musgrove was going to throw 180 innings. Well, hold on. He didn't even pitch yesterday or last year off Tommy John. Or hold on. I thought all of these offensive players are going to bounce back in 2026. Again, I think you need to be realistic and reasonable with it. And I think it's a fair comp. Obviously, they're different sports. They're different levels. One's college sports. The other is professional sports. One's baseball. One's basketball. Gym facts. But I think there's something to be said for that. And not to say that the Padres can treat the regular season like the Dodgers do. Like, I feel like the Dodgers treat regular seasons like it's almost like an exhibition. Oh, let's try this. Let's put this player on the IL. We can give this guy 45 days off. Let's give these guys, blows throughout the course of the season. The Padres are not in a position to do that. But with all that being said, it doesn't mean they have no margin. It's not like come April 1st, if they beat the Giants or lose to the Giants, this can be the difference between making or missing the postseason. I mean, any one game could be the difference between making and missing the postseason. But my point is this, with the additional wildcard teams in baseball, hang around, play your best baseball in the second half of the year, get the best of King and Musgrove late, use the trade deadline to your advantage. And the more times you get into the postseason, at some point, you're going to break through. That's my theory on it. Doesn't mean I'm right. It's just a theory that at some point they'll break through. And we'll see if that's the case or not in 2026. But again, I mean, some of me is optimistic about the Padres heading into 2026. Some of me is also a little pessimistic because I do recognize that they had some faults in 2025 that haven't fully been addressed. But I also recognize it's only December and Preller's offseason isn't over. And I also recognize that you can make additions over the course of the season, specifically at the trade deadline. And that's been really the MO of the Padres over the last handful of years under AJ Preller. So we're going to react to it all. If you want to get your text in, 70470, start your message with the word team. Again, 70470, start it with the word team. You can also call us 877-767-4760 if you want to weigh in. That's 877-767-4760 if you want to weigh in. Lakers basketball coming up at 5:45 here tonight. I do want to get into more of the Aztecs who lost this weekend in Phoenix against the number one team in the nation, bounced back against a Division III opponent yesterday in a blowout win. San Diego State, not at the halfway point, but turning the page from the non-conference to the conference and a look ahead for the Aztecs on the other side. Plus, we'll get into the NFL. Lucky Sutton, San Diego State, outstanding tailback, will join us coming up at 5 p.m. This is John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays to all of us from ours to yours. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Lucky Sutton, Aztecs outstanding tailback, had this breakthrough junior season out of San Diego County, has committed to the Aztecs for 2026 as well. It's getting ready for the New Mexico Bowl, a game you can hear right here on San Diego Sports 760 this Saturday. He'll join us coming up live at 5 p.m. We'll get into his return. And San Diego State trying to pick up a 10th win on the season as well. So he'll join us coming up at 5 p.m. Lakers basketball today at 5:45. Again, phone lines open 877-767-4760, or you can text us 70470. Start it with the word team. All right, so I want to switch gears to the Aztecs men's basketball team for a moment because we haven't caught up since Saturday when the Aztecs played in Phoenix against the number one team in the country, Arizona. And by the way, I thought Dave Velasquez postgame Saturday, and I know the Aztecs have played since Saturday, but I thought Dave Velasquez, longtime assistant to Brian Dutcher and just at San Diego State, I thought he was really transparent and insightful about where the Aztecs are right now, turning the page to conference play, which begins a week from today on the road against San Jose State. If you missed that conversation, we'll actually have it for you coming up at 5:30, so a little later during today's show. But this is what I would say about the game against number one Arizona, because I was there in person. I see the reaction on social media and elsewhere. And it's hard because it's a results-based business. And even Dave Velasquez said this postgame, like they're not in the business of moral victories. And they clearly didn't play anywhere near well enough in the second half of the game. Like, I'm not here to tell you, well, if they had an extra offensive rebound, they're going to win. Or if they got a better whistle, they're going to win. That's not the point of what I'm about to say. The point of what I'm going to say is they're taking strides defensively that I think will pay off. That's my general point. And you might say, but John, they only shot 26%. But John, they scored just 45 points. But John, they lost by 20 points to Arizona. But listeners, but Aztec fans, they're improving defensively, which is how they're going to get where they want to get. It is as simple as that. Now, were they beaten badly on the glass against Arizona? Yeah. Arizona is an elite rebounding team. They're just an elite team in general at both ends of the floor. And Arizona dominated on the glass. But again, I get it. It's not a 20-minute game. For 20 minutes, San Diego State looked the part. And I'm talking about defensively. I thought defensively they looked the part. For the game, Arizona, which was shooting 53% as a team and scoring 90 points per game, shot 38% in Phoenix, which is a de facto home game for the Wildcats. So, and then you might say, well, it's same old offense, but it hasn't really been the same old offense. The only times this year you've seen the Aztecs offense struggle has been in two halves. Michigan second half, Arizona second half. So in 11 games, and I don't have it in front of me, I probably should. Like, I'll look at some of these metrics. Like, you look at San Diego State offensively, this is still like a top 60-ish offense out of 360 teams. So the offense has been good. I'm not telling you it's the greatest offense in mankind. I'm not telling you it's 2020 with Malachi Flynn and they went 30-2. I'm just telling you the offense really hasn't been the issue. The issue has been, in my opinion, that their defense hasn't been the same caliber as it's been over the better part of the last 8 years. But here's what I'm telling you, that it is improving, because now I look at defensive efficiency at something like KenPom, and I told you probably 10 days ago, they're in the 60s. They're in the 70s defensively. Well, all of a sudden you look up, they're 43rd. So they're improving defensively. And I think that if that continues, and again, you're getting into conference play, no longer you play number one and number two. Now, to get where you want to go, if you get to the NCAA tournament, you're playing teams of the ilk and the caliber of the Arizonas and the Michigan. So that's a conversation maybe for another day if they're fortunate enough to play well and make the NCAA tournament. But if we look up in a month and all of a sudden they go from the 43rd most efficient defense to the 23rd most efficient defense, now I think we're cooking with something where you couple an improved offense with an improving defense, and all of a sudden you can rattle off some wins. And that's where I think they are overall. Yesterday, there's no point in taking anything away from the result. Of course, they were going to beat a Division III opponent that they played yesterday. The only question was, what would the margin be? The point I really liked from Brian Dutcher postgame was, 2 points. He said, I didn't want to take a step back in terms of some of the progress that we've been making over the last month. And I liked that we were selfless, not selfish. And if you were watching this game, it was locally televised. If you were listening to this game or you attended this game, there were about 10,000 people there on a Monday afternoon. then you saw a team that was completely unselfish. I mean, everyone was involved. The guards distributing to the forwards, 5 different forwards in double figures, 6 players overall in double figures. So it's not about the opponent. It's about the play of San Diego State specifically. And you saw both ends of the spectrum from an opponent perspective. Arizona is the best team in America, could win the national championship. If not, Michigan might be the best team in America, and they could win the national championship. We get it. It's a funky tournament. Someone else could win the tournament as well. There's great teams, the Iowa States, the Dukes. There's great teams. Or you could have a Cinderella. You never know. But yeah, I get it. Arizona's number one. The game before that was Air Force, right? A bottom dwelling team in the Mountain West. And then the game after Arizona is a Division III opponent, the only time San Diego State won't play a Division I team this year. That's not my point. My point is watch the team with your own 2 eyes. And are you seeing improvement? And it's hard to disagree with what Brian Dutcher is saying. Now, do you want them to be further along than they are? Yeah, I get it. There were high expectations for the team. There were very high expectations for the team. So that's understandable. I completely understand if people were hoping that the record would be better than 7-4 at this, breaking point between non-conference play and conference play. But listen, there's still 2/3 of their season in front of them. And while I know a lot of people have written off the Aztecs as an at-large possibility, I think it's too early to do that. I really do. Now, am I biased? Yes. But I've watched this sport a very long time, and you could be 2 good wins away from all of a sudden being back in the at-large conversation. That's what it is to me. It's like you go beat Utah State. Oh, wow. Quad 1 win. Oh, you go beat Boise State. Oh, wow. Quad 2 win. All of a sudden you look up and your resume looks a lot better. Now, did they have chances that they didn't capitalize on? Yeah. Baylor on a neutral floor led in the second half with about 12 minutes to play, lost that game by 10 points. Obviously, Michigan and Arizona was a tall order and wasn't happening this year with the play of those 2 teams. The game that hangs over them, we all get it, is Troy. The game that hangs over them is a home loss in double overtime to Troy. I guess my point is, have they improved since that moment? And I think the answer is unequivocally yes. Now, have they improved enough to be the best team in the Mountain West in the regular season, or maybe one of the top, let's say, 2 teams in the Mountain West, or to make a Mountain West tournament run? Well, that remains to be seen. It'll play out over the course of the next 10 weeks, roughly from, the 1st of January or the end of December until the middle of March. But we don't know. So I just feel like it's always unfair when people pretend as if they've read the whole book and you've only read like 3 chapters and it's an 18-chapter book. We don't know. And I'm just telling you, in watching them game in and game out, I'm seeing the improvement firsthand. Can they continue to make that improvement? And I think there's reasons to believe they can. Again, Magoon Guath getting healthier, back into game shape. You're seeing that right now. Reese Dixon Waters coming off the foot. We're going to see more, obviously, consistency from a player like Miles Byrd in the second half of the year. I think the freshmen will improve in the second half of the year, and they've gotten great contributions from LZ Harrington and Tay Simmons this year. I think Simmons has really come along recently. And of course, LZ Harrington came along right at the start of the season for Brian Dutcher. So I guess my point is, not all hope is lost. There are reasons for optimism. Were you hoping they'd be better than 7-4 right now? Were you hoping they'd have more of an at-large resume? Of course, Aztec fans were. But I still feel as if there's a lot to play for in the second half of the year. It's not even the second half of the year. It's the final 70% of the year that will get underway December 30th up in Northern California against San Jose State. The type of game that can be tricky, but if you get past, all of a sudden you can build some momentum because you're coming back home to play Boise State on the 3rd of January. All right, we're going to get to hour 2 of John and Jim. On the other side, we'll get into a busy weekend in the NFL, plus all the outrage over the group of 5 in the college football playoff. Is it deserved or not? Plus, Lucky Sutton, San Diego State outstanding tailback, a San Diegan who is committed to the Aztecs for 2026. He announced he's coming back for a final senior season. He will join us live at 5 p.m. We'll get into what went into his return, plus the New Mexico Bowl, which is coming up on Saturday from Albuquerque. But hour 2 of John and Jim on San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app is next.
This report is furnished by Genuine. The Aztec football team's getting ready for Saturday's New Mexico Bowl, and they take on number 25 North Texas. Our pregame coverage will begin at 12:45, and John Rich will have the kick around 2:45. In NFL news, Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy has, quote, a very, very small hairline fracture in his right hand and will not play in the team's Christmas Day game against Detroit. Rookie backup Max Brosmer will start, and the Vikings have not ruled out McCarthy, though, from playing in their final regular season game against the Packers. Tonight, we have Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when the team takes on the Suns. Our pregame coverage begins at 5:45, and the tip will be a little after 6.
Now you don't just hear it, you see it. iHeartRadio Highlights brings you the best show moments, the wild takes, hot reactions, and clips everybody's talking about. Search Fox Sports Radio in the iHeartRadio app to experience Fox Sports like never before.
Furnished by Genuine.
It's John and Jim.
Let's face it, in your particular field, you're the top minds.
Your favorite pair.
Interesting job you guys have.
Very smart and very modern.
They are John and Jim.
That's all you need to know about me.
A new song for the Padres.
Curveball, and that's hit hard into right field by Swung Moon. This should be a double, and it is.
Is AJ done, or is there more to come? And the Aztecs get back on track.
Dixon Waters, mid-post Guath. Guath sends it in for Heidi, and Heidi slams it again.
It's a week off before starting Mountain West play next Tuesday. And could Philly Jim become a thing?
Such a lame question.
We'll talk about it from the studios of San Diego Sports 760 with John and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 2 of John and Jim. Lucky Sutton, Aztec tailback, getting ready for the New Mexico Bowl, will join us live at 5 p.m. Lakers basketball tonight at 5:45 from Phoenix, Arizona, Valley of the Sun. That's coming up at 5:45. So with you until 5:45. A couple of things that I wanted to get to here this hour. John and Jim, but just with John. Jim's final show, by the way, will be a week from yesterday. So this upcoming Monday on the 29th, we've decided without really fully connecting that it will be a Jim roast, which has basically been the premise of the show. Like, the show's been around for 4 years. By and large, has basically been a roast of Jim. I don't know if he's like that. I give him a lot of like credit for that, because that's not everyone's personality that they're willing to play that role. Jim has played it well. Now I kind of think it's who Jim is. I think it's kind of easy to roast Jim from my seat, at least, but he has filled that role well, and I think he's willing to fill it one more time, Brent, coming up next Monday in the Jim Russell roast.
It's probably a good thing we don't have 4 hours.
Yeah, you're saying 3:15 is enough for that?
Well, it'll be enough for him.
Yeah,
is what I'm saying.
I know. I kind of wish we had 5
for
hours.
us. Yeah, I was gonna say us. It'll be plenty of time. For him, he'll probably be like, "God, what did I just agree to?"
So make sure to be here Monday, because again, today we're here until 5:45. Then we're off because it's Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, day after Christmas. These are like holidays at iHeart. And just holidays. And then we're back next week. Jim will be here Monday. And then we've got sports talk for you, all throughout the holiday season into 2026 and beyond. So make sure to be with us right here on John and Jim and San Diego Sports 760. We just joked about something off air I had forgotten about. There's a couple of things I wanted to get to that, again, because we've had a herky-jerky schedule and because I've been traveling, there's some things we've missed. One of the things that happened this weekend, and we'll get into the NFL and what's to come, including Bears-Niners, by the way. I didn't realize this. And this is for 5 minutes from now, or maybe even 10 minutes, Brent. But if the Niners now win out, we knew they're the 1 seed, but they don't have to go anywhere in the postseason, including if they win in the postseason, the Super Bowl is at Levi's Stadium. So now it's not easy. Bears-Seahawks to me is not easy at all. But is the Bears game in Chicago or in San Francisco? Are they home for both of their last 2 games?
I think so.
So they don't have to go anywhere potentially through the Super Bowl if everything works perfectly. So we'll get into that coming up in a few moments. But we spent some time last week talking about a name, talking about a first base option, Munetaka Murakami, who was an Asian slugger out of Japan that was posted. And initially when he was posted, we heard all the big names. Like, you heard about all the heavy hitters across baseball that might have intrigue. Then we heard in the last few days, and this might have been accurate with the benefit of hindsight, that the market had softened. And then we found out not only had it softened, he signed with the Chicago White Sox. So Munetaka Murakami, who I thought was going to like the Yankees or the Dodgers or the Red Sox as recently as like a month ago when he was posted, ends up with the Chicago White Sox. And to your point, we joked about this off air. Did he think he was signing with the Cubs? Is he he's went to the Chicago White Sox, who have been irrelevant since winning a World Series, whenever that was, 20 years ago. He's on the Chicago White Sox. What were the terms of the deal? Do you remember the terms? I'll look them up.
I don't remember what it was, but yeah, I joked that nobody told him that Chicago has two teams. He's just like, oh, Chicago, the Cubs, they're really good.
Like, I don't understand. The White Sox have always been this organization, maybe a little bit like Rockies-esque for me, even Twins-esque. I think more Rockies-esque, where sometimes you look up, you're like, why did you sign Chris Bryant? Like, wait, you had money? The White Sox said the deal, okay, 2 years, 34. But think about this. Padres miss out on O'Hearn 2 for 29. They miss out on Murakami, now a guy that has maybe one hit. Like maybe he's just going to be a swing and miss guy that's going to run into some balls. But 2 years, $34 million. He had 265 home runs in 1,000 games in Japan, but also struck out over 1,000 times in Japan. So 2 years, $34 million. I don't think we ever hear from Murakami again. I mean, are the White Sox going to be relevant because he's there the next 2 years? No. Right? So anyway, they get their first baseman. I guess they get a middle of the order bat in Murakami. Now he's a left-handed bat. So he's another one of these guys that's a left-handed bat. Maybe the Padres are seeking that true right-handed slugger to slot into their lineup. Or maybe they didn't have the money for an O'Hearn or a Murakami after committing resources, funds, dollars, whatever you want to call it, to Michael King. I mean, it's all the same money. You might say, well, hold on. I mean, Michael King doesn't help your lineup. But yeah, the $25 million is $25 million per year. So it's impactful for the Padres. But yeah, I was very surprised by it. I wasn't expecting some crazy deal because we had heard that the market had softened, but I was expecting he would end up with a relevant franchise. There's a few of these teams that just, you fall out of bed and they got no business. You know, they have no shot. A few of these franchises have no shot over 162. I would put the White Sox in that conversation. And again, every once in a while, they make these curious moves. You're like, what are they doing? But you have to be very careful because even signing one player and people get excited about it. And then you look up 60 days into the season and a team's still 20-40. Like it's not overly relevant to make one addition to a team. All right, phone lines are open. We're going to get into this past week in the NFL, what's to come, the final 2 weeks of the regular season as well. There's so many good storylines coming out of week 16. But 877-767-4760. That's 877-767-4760. Ross, you're on with John and Jim. Thanks for calling in and happy holidays.
Nice. Happy holidays, Johnny. First of all, big fan of the wrap-up show. I'm really glad you guys are continuing that on next year.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
But just a couple things on the Padres. First things first, obviously after the re-signing of Michael King, I feel like a big concern of mine has kind of shifted to the sort of right-handed power options we have going in the lineup right now. I think lefty-wise, we're pretty set. We got our right-handed names, but I'm thinking a guy like Kazuma Okamoto kind of to give us some more right-handed power. I feel like last year we kind of struggled against left-handers, so I think it would be a pretty good.
So is he being posted? What's his deal right now? I'm sorry, Ross, to cut you. He's posted right now. Is he a free agent?
Yeah, he's posted until I believe early January he can sign.
Okay. And I'm just I've done the cursory glance at him. You could stay here for one more. I mean, he looks like he's been a true power hitter, but he's also not a pup. He's going to be 30. And I'm just looking, 37 home runs. No. Do I have that right? 27 home runs in 2024, 41 in 2023. Yeah, it's an intriguing name because maybe it's one of these guys. How much money is he going to get? If Murakami got 34, is he getting more than that? Is he getting less than that?
I can't imagine he'd get more than that considering Murakami was supposed to be a lot more than that. So, all
right, good name. Thank you, Ross, for listening. I mean, it's intriguing. I mean, I think when you're AJ Preller, who's always unconventional and always creative, and now you're looking at the overseas market, and can you stumble into a guy that's hit 300 career home runs, that has played in the Nippon Professional Baseball League, which is higher than the KBO. Like the addition they made out of the KBO, Sung Moon Song. Have we talked about him here? I think we did on Friday or Thursday. I'll believe it when I see it. Here's a guy that's 29 that had a couple of really nice years in the KBO, but the KBO is not always translated historically to Major League Baseball. All right. With that in mind, the Nippon Professional Baseball League, the NPB, has by and large translated. Doesn't mean all players hit, but more players hit out of the NPB than out of the KBO. So I'm more intrigued by players coming out of Japan than I am about players coming out of Korea. And the name that was just brought up by Ross, Kazuma Okamoto, is a guy that is flat out hit for power. And not only is he hit for power, he's been a guy, I'm just looking, he hits for average and he gets on base. I mean, just that combination of power, on base percentage, I mean, his career numbers, he's a career 856 hitter, and his on base percentage is 355 in his career, which is good for his slugger. So, yeah, I'm intrigued. And to his point, like, listen, if the White Sox just gave this slugger $34 million and he was the, more sought after player, maybe this player comes over for less than that. So that's an interesting name. I am at this point a little bit convinced that the Padres are looking for a right-handed bat, right? A right-handed corner bat that can provide power. And maybe that is what they're looking for right now in the offseason, because again, they've passed on a couple of left-handed options, and we said so often last year on John and Jim, they're too lefty heavy. So you need to be a little more balanced potentially moving forward, and maybe that goes a long way. I mean, shoot, even the addition, I think, of Sung Moon Song, they had another left-handed hitter. Now he's more of I think he's a depth piece. I really do. I don't see him stepping in and playing every day. Where would he even play every day? Certainly not playing first base for me every day. But Johnny hit 26 home runs last year. But guys, he did it in the KBO. If you hit 26 home runs last year in the KBO, you ain't touching 26 home runs in the major leagues. There's an adjustment period. I'm not convinced he's Ha-Seong Kim. And Ha-Seong Kim struggled to hit by and large in the major leagues. Now, he eventually came around. I think it took about a year and a half. But if Sung Moon Song isn't Ha-Seong Kim and he didn't get the contract that Ha-Seong Kim got, then I'm not fully convinced that he's going to hit. And I'm certainly not convinced he's going to hit for power in the major leagues. So, yeah, the Padres search and quest for a power corner piece continues as we're going to turn the calendar from 2025 to 2026. The other side will be dedicated to the NFL and what's in store for the final 2 weeks of the regular season. What we saw play out this past weekend, unbelievable games, right? A Bears walk-off. We saw Phillip Rivers in action on Monday Night Football as the Niners continue to roll. A lot to discuss. The Chargers are postseason bound here in 2025, so there's a lot to react to. We'll do that on the other side. Lucky Sutton, Aztec, outstanding tailback. He will join us live coming up at 5 p.m., getting ready for the New Mexico Bowl. He's also committed to returning to San Diego State in 2026. We'll talk to Lucky Sutton coming up at 5 p.m. And we have Lakers basketball for you tonight as well, coming up at 5:45. So stay with us. We'll get into this past weekend in the NFL and what it means for the final 2 weeks of the regular season coming up next. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, John and Jim. San Diego Sports 760. Lucky Sutton, Aztec tailback, will join us live coming up at 5 p.m. He announced he'll be back for his senior season. He's getting ready for the New Mexico Bowl as well on Saturday, a game you can hear right here on San Diego Sports 760. So Lucky Sutton will join us coming up at 5 p.m. Lakers basketball tonight at 5:45. If you'd like to join today, by the way, phone lines are open. Jim's MIA. He's baking cookies in Philadelphia. 877-767-4760. We're talking Padres. We're talking Aztecs. We're talking NFL. Want to talk holidays? Whatever you want to talk. 877-767-4760. It's a bit of a holiday show, right? There's not a ton that's overly pressing. Again, O'Hearn signs the Pirates. Aztecs will play Saturday. Then Aztecs basketball will play next week. There's nothing overly pressing. So whatever's on your mind, 877-767-4760. We can kick off our NFL talk with Sean if we want. Sean's on the line. Wants to talk some NFL. So 877-767-4760. Sean, you're on with John and Jim. Thanks for calling in and happy holidays.
Hey, happy holidays to you. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
Some intriguing matchups going on this weekend, but things to look back on from last weekend. A lot of people are looking at the Texans as kind of a team that could make a run, but it seemed like they had their hands full with the Raiders at home last weekend. Or sorry, they're in Vegas, but still kind of an eye-opening thing there for a team that they look like has a juggernaut defense. Offense kind of sputters a little bit. Just curious on what your thoughts were on that.
I would say this in the NFL, and thank you, Sean, for the call. I would say this: be careful being overly worried about any one result, especially when you win. You know, and they play so many games now, the 17 games, and you see some wonky scores out there, and sometimes like, how did this team lose to this team? And yes, the Raiders are awful. End result is a win. And Houston's won how many games in a row now? Like, they are scorching hot, whatever number of games they've won. Now, I don't know if I would put them in the if there's a list of 2 teams to get to the Super Bowl out of the AFC, they're probably not on my list, right? But you look up, and what are they? They're 10-5. No, they're definitely not on my list because even right now, they're a game back of Jacksonville. If I'm picking 2 teams out of the AFC right now, the teams I'm picking are New England and Buffalo, same division. Is that fair? If you're picking 2 teams out of the AFC, who would you pick other than New England and Buffalo? I'm with you. Houston, all right, they're scorching hot. They've won 7 consecutive games. Are you picking them to reach the Super Bowl? Let's be honest. I don't think so. Jacksonville, no chance. Broncos have been an amazing story. An amazing story. Do you like them more than both New England and Buffalo? Do you like Bo Nix more than Josh Allen, for example? And then there's the Chargers. I can't be convinced. With that offensive line, I cannot be convinced that the 11-4 Chargers are making a run and getting to the Super Bowl. So the AFC, Brent, maybe is down to a couple of teams. The NFC is fascinating to me. Chicago has played brilliantly, picked up this unbelievable win. I mean, truly an unbelievable win that you were watching on Saturday. Let's be honest, San Francisco's scorching hot. They haven't played anyone. The NFC West is ridiculous. Rams, Seahawks, and Niners. The Eagles are still the team that wins Super Bowls and gets to Super Bowls. And they are 10-5. And they've won their division. So, I mean, what do you make as a Bears fan right now? What do you make of the state of the NFC?
The Bears could get number 1.
What are they? So they need to beat San Francisco.
Well, they got San Francisco and Detroit left. So, because they're number 2 right now. So if they beat San Francisco and then San Francisco beats Seattle and the Bears went out, they're the number 1 seed.
Well, no, if the Bears beat San Francisco, they control their own destiny. Because they'd have the tiebreaker, right?
Yeah, I'm just
because if the Bears beat the Niners,
no, I mean with Seattle. With Seattle.
With Seattle,
yeah.
Okay, with Seattle, yeah. So so they'd still potentially need help to get to the 1 seed. And listen, Bears to San Francisco is not easy, but
George Kittle's got an ankle sprain. They don't know the status. I'm sure he'll play, but
the Bears have been awesome. I mean, the Bears have just frankly been awesome. And the thing is, the one knock on San Francisco is who are they playing? Their schedule has not been overly challenging. We talked about this going into the year. Even this past weekend, it's okay, you're taking on Indianapolis. Give Phillip Rivers a lot of credit. I mean, it's ridiculous what he's doing. Look at the Niners offense, though, in that game. It's you just look up and every time the Niners are playing someone, it seems like they're playing either a team that's in the lower half of the NFL or a team that's dealing with a quarterback injury. Now they close Bears, Seahawks. Can they truly take advantage of this opportunity? And man, that 1 seed means so much. If you're The difference in the 1 seed or like the 3 seed is, again, one fewer games and not having to go on the road. It's everything in the NFL. So that's as big of a game as we've seen this year, basically, in the NFC this weekend, Bears and Niners. And then the next weekend, maybe with whatever's playing out with the Seahawks and the Niners as well. So it's it's interesting. To me, it feels wide open in the NFC. But I say that maybe it's not. Maybe San Francisco wins the next 2 games at home. They're 13-4. They got the top seed, and then everything goes through Levi's Stadium to get to the Super Bowl.
I think this year is just kind of odd because in previous years, there's been like one team, at least in, each conference, that just stood out to where it's like, oh, well, there's the Chiefs and then there's everybody else. This year, there's no, Chiefs and everybody else. This year, it's just kind of, the playing field seems more even to where there's more teams that could win the Super Bowl theoretically this year than I think there has been in probably close to 10 years.
It does seem like that. Again, I think when you eliminate Kansas City in the AFC, it feels like you've just completely opened a door, which you have, because they've been in so many Super Bowls. And then the NFC, I think there's a lot of people, including myself, that just don't believe in the Philadelphia Eagles. It's not that they're bad. They're just not as good. And there's more holes in general. And I would be very surprised. I'd be very surprised if Philadelphia made the Super Bowl. They're not going to be the top seed. They're not going to be the number 2 seed. All of a sudden, they're going to have to go on the road and win. They're not going to have the bye. So that, to me, would surprise me if the Eagles win the Super Bowl. And here's the other thing about the AFC. If it's not the Bills, and again, their path isn't going to be the easiest. They're not going to be the top seed. They're likely going to have to go on the road in the postseason because they're not going to be the top seed. But if it's not Josh Allen, you have to ask yourself, when will it be Josh Allen? Because he's also, not that he's old, but again, you've been blocked your whole career by Patrick Mahomes, and now you're not blocked by Patrick Mahomes. He's going to be 30 next season. It's like, this is the opportunity you've been clamoring for if you're the Buffalo Bills.
This is like, remind me of like when Jordan retired to go play for the White Sox, and everyone's like, okay, this is finally our shot. Jordan's gone, and we have to take advantage of it. So I just hope that some team does take advantage of it to where maybe we can get some sort of new dynasty thing going to, kind of replace the Chiefs instead of just being a placeholder. And then next year, everything goes back to the way it was.
Funny you say that. Like, where would a new dynasty start? Buffalo, intriguing because of Josh Allen. Could one start in New England?
They're young enough.
With Drake May. And they've been incredible. There's no chance. I'm not a believer in Denver. Maybe I should be. Maybe that's on me. NFC, I don't think it's about a start of a dynasty right now. It's just about who's going to make the Super Bowl out of the NFC. I think there's some great teams. I think Seattle's year has been incredible. I think the Bears' year has been incredible. I think the Rams still might be the best team in the NFC.
I think the NFC, a lot of the top level teams, they're just too old for them to be the start of a dynasty. If the Rams would win again, it's not going to be the start of the dynasty because I just think they're too old,
right,
for them to,
completely
win long enough for like a dynasty. Same with the Eagles. I think the Eagles have been around long enough that they're too old to start like a dynasty. But like New England's perfect because they got all those young players. They got Drake May. They would be set up for, a hypothetical dynasty just because of how young they are. And they're going to have more rookie contracts under control and stuff like that.
Yeah, completely agree with that. All right. I do want to switch gears to the college football playoff in the first round on the other side and what it tells me about Group of 5 football in the postseason moving forward. Also, we'll get to the wrap at 4 p.m. Lucky Sutton will join us live coming up at 5 p.m. Aztecs tailback out of San Diego County. We've got Lakers basketball tonight at 5:45. Stay with us, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app.
The support is furnished by Genuine. The Aztec football team's getting ready for their bowl game in New Mexico on Saturday when they take on number 25 North Texas. Our pregame coverage begins at 12:45. John and Rich will have the kick around 2:45. In NFL news, Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy has, quote, a very, very small hairline fracture in his right hand, according to Coach Kevin O'Connell, and will not play in the team's Christmas Day game against Detroit. Rookie backup Max Brosmer will start, but the Vikings have not ruled out McCarthy from playing in their final regular season game against Green Bay. Tonight, we have Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when the team takes on the Suns. Our pregame coverage starts at 5:45. And the tip will be a little after 6.
Now you don't just hear it, you see it. iHeartRadio Highlights brings you the best show moments, the wild takes, hot reactions, and clips everybody's talking about. Search Fox Sports Radio in the iHeartRadio app to experience Fox Sports like never before.
Furnished by Genuine.
All right, happy holidays. John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 with you until 5:45. Lakers Suns pregame coverage beginning at 5:45. Dave Velasquez, longtime San Diego State men's basketball assistant, I thought was really transparent, and you're going to learn a lot if you missed him postgame Saturday after the Aztecs played number 1 Arizona in Phoenix. You'll hear that conversation coming up at 5:30, and Lucky Sutton, Aztec tailback, will join us coming up at 5 p.m. We'll get into the New Mexico Bowl and his return. He announced on social media yesterday he will return for his senior season. I need to have a conversation about the college football playoff. I need to have a big boy conversation about it, and I can't do that with Jim because Jim wants no part of this conversation, so I can have this conversation without him. So here is the issue. Here's the issue at hand. And if you followed this at all on social media, it is such a weird conversation because you've got this playoff with 12 teams, and this year 2 teams that were in it were out of the group of 5. It was a unique situation. By the way, they've already prevented it from happening again. They've guaranteed the Power 4 champions access in 2026, whatever. And they're still going to guarantee access to a group of 5 champion or group of 6 next year. Okay. So you still have 1 team in it moving forward for at least the next 5 years. There's all this outcry from media members specifically, like big boy media members at like Fox and ESPN, the Joel Klatz of the world, like, it's bad for I feel bad for JMU and they don't deserve this. I'm thinking to myself, JMU earned this. What do you mean that? No, they do deserve this. Okay, so JMU lost 51-34 at Oregon. Guess what? Everyone's going to lose 51-34 at Oregon. Okay, and Tulane lost at Ole Miss. Okay, it happens. They actually played there earlier this year and lost by 35 points. But you look around college football and there's blowouts every weekend in every league. And it's been a staple of college football for forever. And why is it? I know I've had this Cinderella conversation a lot. That's not my point. Now, here's where the conversation is going with college football, Brent. And this is where I really take exception to it. The conversation now is like, oh no, little group of 5. I don't want them to get hurt. They should have their own playoff. Yet everyone in the transfer portal is like, USF quarterback, I want him at Ohio State, and San Diego State linebacker, I want him at Clemson. So the players individually can move up, but collectively as a team, like, oh no, we can't see a group of 5 team playing a Power 5 team. Something bad could happen to them. In college basketball, I get it. Different game. Completely different game. In college basketball, though, you know the last time a team won the NCAA tournament that was outside of like a power league? It's been forever. Yet nobody says the non-power leagues should go have their own little tournament. Nobody says put the Mountain West and the American and the NEC and the MAC. Nobody says let the top 5 or 6 leagues play their own 32-team tournament and take the other 20 leagues and play your own 32-team tournament, even though none of any program outside of a power league has won since UNLV in 1990. Now, Gonzaga got close. San Diego State got close.
Butler got close.
There's countless examples of teams making runs. And now Butler's kind of in the power structure because of that, because of what they did. They went from maybe the Horizon League to the Big East as a result. Creighton has made runs. They ended up in the Big East. But like, I do think that this idea that the group of 5 shouldn't be on the same field with the Power 5, that to me is a mistake. And I don't think the group of 5 should have a separate playoff. I just think the Power 5 should be more inclusive. why is it that we have 375 Division I basketball teams, and that's fair and reasonable, but we have 130 Division I football teams, and it's too many? So again, I'm not saying that you could put San Diego State on field after an 11-1 year with Penn State, and if they lose, they lose. And if they win, they win. Same thing with Boise State or whomever else, the Tulanes of the world and the Memphises of the world. I'm not telling you that there's some inevitability or guarantee that these teams are going to win, but I will say this. If this format continues and you give a group of 5 team an opportunity each and every year in the postseason for the next 10 or 20 years, someone is going to take advantage of the opportunity. The reason we don't see it, and there's this narrative like the group of 5 can't compete on the same field as the Power 5. And I'm thinking to myself, like, well, Boise State, Oklahoma, App State, Michigan. I mean, there's a zillion modern examples. I mean, there's all kind. Tulane beat USC in a New Year's Six game recently. There's 3 or 4 examples. Memphis, I think, beat Penn State in a New Year's Six game. So there's so many examples. Why is it that everyone is trying to keep the group of 5 away from the Power 4? What's the fear?
You just said it. It's fear. They're afraid that they might lose to one of these teams.
Or is it access? They'd rather have 8-4, Penn State or 8-4 Missouri in over the last, the only G5 team being in.
Yeah, I think they're afraid that they're going to get beat by one of these smaller schools, and they sit there and spend so much time just punching down on them, saying that, they're too small and they're too weak and you can't hang and you don't belong here. And they can't sit there and run their mouth like that and say all that stuff and then lose to one of those teams. They're going to look like an ass if they do that. And, the thing that pisses me off about this whole scenario is, you guys invited them. My whole analogy is this would be like if I was throwing a New Year's Eve party and I didn't want Jim to show up to the party, but I invited him anyways. So Jim shows up to the party because I invited him. And now as soon as he walks in the door, I'm just mean mugging him and I'm giving him attitude and I'm pissed off that he's there. And it's just like, well, if I didn't want Jim there, why did I invite him? And that's the way I feel with a lot of these non-Power 5 schools is if you didn't want us here, then why are you inviting us? It's like you're inviting us to the party. And then when you show up to accept your invitation, now you're pissed off that we're here. If you don't want us here, then don't invite us.
Yeah, I just, I would say this as well. Like, couple of things, like the structure right now, like what is it about? Why is Wake Forest, like let's just throw out some examples. Why is Wake Forest a power program, but Boise State isn't? Because if you gave Boise State the resources that Wake Forest has, as in Wake Forest just makes more on TV, wouldn't Boise State run circles historically around Wake Forest? If you gave San Diego State UCLA money, wouldn't San Diego State be so much better historically than UCLA? It's like UCLA has mismanaged all the money and like kind of fallen forward or like failed forward. You know what I mean? So to me, like a lot of this is grandfathered in. Like I look around the country and I'm thinking to myself that if you redid it right now, if you redid the Power and Group of 5 structure, you'd make a ton of changes to it. But because Purdue is in the Big Ten, they're just in the Big Ten, as if Purdue has earned the right to be in the Big Ten, or like Rutgers has earned the right to be in the Big Ten. It's like if you gave the opportunity to Memphis, I could argue they take more advantage of it than Rutgers. Or if you gave the opportunity to San Diego State, I'd argue that they would take advantage of it more than Northwestern or whomever else.
And this won't happen, but if it did to where they were like, oh, well, you guys can have your own little tournament and have your own champion amongst yourselves, I would just get all the non-Power 5 schools and be like, we're not playing them anymore. When Alabama wants us to take a check to come down there and get our asses kicked just because they're too afraid to play a legit, school, then we're just going to tell them no. And then they can go in there and have to actually schedule a non-conference schedule instead of, playing Citadel in week 12 every year and stuff like that. That goes back to the fear thing. Why is schools like Alabama scheduling FCS schools? Because they just want to go in there and kick their butt. And they're too afraid that if they would schedule a Northwestern or one of these other schools that isn't very good, but is an actual Power 5 school, that they'll lose.
Yeah, it's an interesting conversation. Again, I'm just not in favor of the idea of the group of five having their own playoff. Like it's Division
Yeah, I'm
One
not either.
FBS football. So why are we creating this line? That'd be like saying, like, you know what, the AFC South is never good, which is like historically true, or like the NFC South is never good. Therefore, their path to the Super Bowl is harder, or not. Not it doesn't even exist. I get it; it's different, professional and college, but for whatever reason, man, this clamoring, this narrative that the group of five does not belong in the same field as the Power Five drives me up a wall. All right, we'll get to Is That Good? The best and worst of the sports weekend on the other side. The wrap is coming up. We're going to hear from Lucky Sutton. Aztec tailback will join us live coming up at 5 p.m. Lakers basketball tonight with pregame coverage beginning at 5:45. This is John and Jim. San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 live on the iHeartRadio app. Text line open 70470. Start it with the word team, or you can call us 877-767-4760. Lucky Sutton is going to join the show live at 5 p.m. Aztec tailback, coming off a terrific regular season, getting ready for the New Mexico Bowl. He will join us coming up at 5 p.m. Lakers basketball at 5:45. Lakers and Suns pregame coverage at 5:45. Before we get to Is That Good, I don't even know if we're going to get to Is That Good right now. I did see a story that I found to be interesting out of the NBA today, and it's about tanking. This is a conversation that's been around the league for 20 years. This idea of tanking is kind of like, I don't know, like been a wide casted shadow over the league, like a little bit of a dark cloud over the league. Because you think about the league over the last 20 years, like there's been these like random like scandals. And this year you had like the gambling probe situation, and tanking has always been a story because everyone wants to end up with like a top 3 pick and someone that can change their franchise for the next 10 plus years. So today we learned that the NBA is like beginning a process of potentially trying to combat tanking. And some of the things they're looking into is you can no longer have a team drafting in the top 4 2 years in a row is one of the ideas. You can limit pick protections to either the top 4 or 14 and higher. And then according to ESPN, that would eliminate the problematic mid-lottery protections. And then they're looking at locking lottery positions in after March 1st, potentially. At the end of the day, here's the issue, in my opinion, with tanking in the NBA, and I kind of touched on it there briefly, that in this sport specifically, this isn't baseball where you can go out and bring in Shohei Ohtani. You bring in arguably the best player of a generation, and you're the Angels, and for 6 years you don't win. You bring in the best basketball player of a generation, you're in the NBA Finals. Now, you might not win the NBA Finals like LeBron James in Cleveland his first time through, but you are going to be in the NBA Finals repeatedly. NFL, you can have a great quarterback. That alone is not the whole enchilada. Like there's a lot of really good quarterbacks. Justin Herbert's a really good quarterback. Josh Allen's a really good quarterback. Lamar Jackson's a really good quarterback. The reason I think you see it more in the NBA is you're one, I mean, again, in theory, you're one star away, right? Now, LeBron only comes around every 20 years, and we'll see about how good a Cooper Flag is. But the point remains the point. Some of those, the difference between, and you know this, Brent, the difference between picking first, second, or third and picking 9th, 10th, or 11th is everything. A first or second pick is someone that could be a Hall of Famer. Not to say the 12th pick couldn't, but you might draft first or second and end up with someone that's going to, be a Hall of Famer and appear in 6 NBA Finals. You might draft 12th and the guy might be out of the league in 2.5 years. So that to me is why it's so problematic. There's a lot of reward, in my opinion, for tanking in the NBA. That doesn't really, like in Major League Baseball, give me a break. You can't tank. Are you guaranteeing me this high school shortstop is going to solve the, Miami Marlins problems? Is 6 years from now? It's impossible to do. But in the NBA, you might be one AJ DeBonsa away from being, a contender year in and year out.
I don't think they were harsh enough with like the penalties. I think the penalties should be, like the equivalent of, like when a school gets like the death penalty in college, football or something like that, to where it should be so severe that they're not even going to think about it, because they kind of, they're like, oh, we don't like load management, we're going to cut down on it. And then it's like their load management cut down is like this little, slap on the wrist. And when players violate it, they don't do anything about it. So I would say don't reward the teams, just because Memphis has 20 more losses than, New Orleans, don't give them 20 more ping pong balls out of the thing and reward them. Just take all the non-lottery teams or not the non-playoff teams, and just give them the same amount of balls in the lottery draft. Or you're just going to have to get rid of the lottery altogether and just go like an NFL route and just be like, okay, the worst team gets it, instead of, oh, well, we can't just be the worst team in the league or a bad team. We have to be like one of the worst teams ever to like increase our lottery ball chances.
Yeah. The problem in the NBA is there's all these protected picks. Like there's an example here. This is kind of funny. So the Sixers last year going into the year are supposed to be really good. They end up being really bad. And they end up going 8-29 down the stretch and preserve their top 6 protected pick as a result. Like, that's a little insane. Or they brought up an example from a couple of years prior in April of 2023 when the Mavericks were still mathematically alive for a playing spot, but owed a top 10 protected first round pick to the Knicks. And then they elected to sit Kyrie Irving and Luka in the same game. So, like, and then they got fined as a result. But there's all this, like, teams are getting way too cute, where I get it. It's impacting two things: A, the integrity of the sport, and B, like, the fandom. So now all of a sudden I'm going to a game and I'm going to spend all this money knowing that the team that I'm going to see benefits from losing. Like, they have a clear and decisive benefit from not even winning the basketball game. You can't convince me that that's good for anyone, really.
Well, and they play too many games for that.
Yeah.
It's one thing, if the Bears suck and, like, their last 4 games, they're going to go out there and play backups because they want to get a better draft pick. To me, that makes sense. And it's easier to swallow, so to say, opposed to having to put up with that for like 40 or 60 games of them just going out there every day and just, putting forth the minimal amount of effort that they can to just go out there and, say that they play the game, and half the time, some of these teams, they don't even show up. It's like they, are just collecting their check and they don't even care or try.
Yeah. Again, to your point, I mean, again, I don't have the perfect answer for it. I do get that it's problematic because, again, we're talking about, like, think about, I don't know the last 20 years of top overall picks, like top overall picks NBA over the last 20 years. I mean, you're talking about some absurdly impactful players, not just number 1, but, number 2 and number 3. Like, let's just run through real quick. Recent high picks: Wemby, all right, Cooper Flagg, Cade Cunningham, Anthony Edwards. Now, again, some don't work out. The Zions, the DeAndre Aytons, the Markelle Fultzes, the Ben Simmons. There's a lot of examples of guys that don't work out. But also there's the LeBrons, there's the Kyrie Irvings that have been there over the last 20 plus years as well. So, as in, I see that it's like seeing the pot at the end of the rainbow. You see the reason teams would try to get to the top of the draft. It's such a big deal. The difference between drafting Victor Wembanyama and Zachary Risachet, I mean, that's the difference between the number 1 pick from one year to the next. I'm just saying, you end up with Wemby, you've changed your franchise for 15 years. You end up with the 11th pick that year, you just got, like, some guy. So I see the incentive, but I do agree kind of with the league, which is like, you have to attempt to combat it. Maybe you can't fully eliminate it, but I think to your point, you have to make it like, don't even think about doing it. That would be the best way to do it. I don't know if that's possible or not. But it is a problem. I mean, Philadelphia spent a decade trying to beat the system. Remember that? Like, the trust the process Sixers of, like, the early 2010s. They spent it. Now, they didn't beat the system in the end. They didn't even appear in an NBA Finals with that version of the, like, trust the process, let's tank Philadelphia 76ers. But it is something that ultimately I think is probably bad for the sport and needs to be, combated to some extent moving forward. We'll get to the wrap on the other side. Lucky Sutton will join us at 5 p.m. We're going to hear from Dave Velasquez following that San Diego State Arizona game on Saturday night in Phoenix. I thought it was really insightful. That's why we're going to bring it back for you coming up at 5:30. We have Lakers basketball tonight at 5:45. Hour 3, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app is next.
The support is furnished by Genuine. The Aztec football team's getting ready for Saturday's New Mexico Bowl when they take on number 25 North Texas. Our pregame coverage starts at 12:45, and John and Rich will have the kick around 2:45. In NFL news, Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy has, quote, a very, very small hairline fracture in his right hand, according to Coach Kevin O'Connell, and will not play in the team's Christmas Day game against Detroit. Rookie backup Max Brosner will start, but the Vikings have not ruled out McCarthy from playing in their final regular season game against Green Bay. Tonight, we got Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when the team takes on the Suns. Our pregame coverage starts at 5:45, and the tip will be a little after 6.
Now you don't just hear it, you see it. iHeartRadio Highlights brings you the best show moments, the wild takes, hot reactions, and clips everybody's talking about. Search Fox Sports Radio in the iHeartRadio app to experience Fox Sports like never before.
Furnished by Genuine.
It's John and Jim.
Let's face it, in your particular field, you're the top minds.
Your favorite pair.
Interesting job you guys had.
Very smart and very modern.
They are John and Jim.
That's all you need to know about me.
A new song for the Padres.
Curveball, and that's hit hard into right field by Hong Moon. This should be a double, and it is.
Is AJ done, or is there more to come? And the Aztecs get back on track.
Dixon Waters, mid-post Guath. Guath sends it in for Heidi, and Heidi slams it again.
It's a week off before starting Mountain West play next Tuesday. And could Philly Jim become a thing?
Such a lame question.
We'll talk about it from the studios of San Diego Sports 760 with John and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 3 of John and Jim. We're with you until 5:45. Lakers basketball tonight on San Diego Sports 760. Pregame coverage beginning at 5:45. Lucky Sutton will join the show coming up at 5 p.m. We'll talk about his announcement on social media. Aztec tailback will be back. He will be back in 2026. We'll get into that coming up again with Lucky Sutton at 5 p.m. We always get to the wrap at 4, and we'll do that momentarily. Again, John and Jim. Jim is off this week. Only Jim announces he is leaving, and then takes a week off before he even leaves. Like, he announces on Friday he is leaving, and then he's like, my final show is 12/29, but he's not here until 12/29. So he's taking this week off. Now, we only have we only have today, because yesterday we had an Aztecs game. Today we have a normal show. Tomorrow is Christmas Eve. So the final John and Jim will be Monday, and then come Tuesday, you're going to hear us right here on San Diego Sports 760. It's going to sound a lot like today, because there won't be any Jim on that show, but you will be hearing us each and every weekday right here on San Diego Sports 760 until a new co-host is found, whomever that may be, whenever that may be, at some point in 2026.
Rose ceremony coming soon.
Yeah, it may. I'm expecting it to be in 2026, or certainly at some point later this decade. We could have that announcement coming up at some point in 2026. So again, Lucky Sutton will join us coming up at 5 p.m. But right now, let's get to this.
It's time for the wrap. Presented by Sombrero Mexican Food. Check out their website at sombreromex.com.
Did the Padres make a mistake not re-signing Ryan O'Hearn?
So we spent maybe 30 minutes on this earlier. I don't know if I would refer to it as mistake, because at the end of the day, if you have $100 in your wallet, it's like, how are you going to use the money? Because if you have $100, that means you can't spend $200. So if they had the limited resources and you told me they signed Michael King over Ryan O'Hearn, I completely get it. And I'm not saying it's as simple as that, because the offseason isn't over and we don't know ultimately what their moves are going to look like between now and the start of the season in late March. But I could be convinced that they have limited resources and they had to make some decisions. And the decision they made was Michael King is more important than Ryan O'Hearn. Also, I think they need a right-handed power bat, not a left-handed power bat. Might be some of their thinking. So I wouldn't call it a mistake, but I think all things being equal, if you could just bring him back, I'd prefer that he did return. And I do think he provided some value in the second half of the year. Now, he didn't have some crazy 50-game stint with the Padres. He was solid. I wouldn't call him spectacular. I think I would have liked to see him more. And the reason I say it is, A, what he did in Baltimore, and B, what Manny Machado said after the season, which was, I hope we re-sign Ryan O'Hearn. Literally said that at his locker in the clubhouse at Wrigley Field the day the season ended, October 2nd, a couple of months ago. So because of that, I'm not calling it a mistake, but again, I think if you could have everyone back and money wasn't a factor, I think Ryan O'Hearn would be back. So maybe it's a loss. I don't know if it's a mistake. Next question.
Who's the best team in the NFC?
The best team in the NFC, I don't know if you'll agree with this. I still think it's the LA Rams, who, again, it's the NFL, so it's hard to say this, but they should have beaten Seattle. They just didn't. But they should have beaten Seattle. They just didn't. That's on them. And now it's going to be a little harder for them to potentially, get through the postseason because the odds of them winning that division now have become very low. But I think they can win on the road. And I think they should have won on the road the other day. I think they're the most complete team. But I think the NFC is very good. You can make a case for Chicago, San Francisco, Seattle, the LA Rams. Maybe I'm missing someone. It's harder for me to make the case for the Eagles, but maybe you could make that case as well. I think there's 5-6 teams you can make a case for, including, again, the LA Rams. Who do you think is the best team in the NFC, bro?
One of the NFC West teams, I would say. I don't know if I trust Seattle in the playoffs, and I don't know if I trust Brock Purdy in the playoffs either. I trust Matthew Stafford way more than I do. So I'd probably go with the Rams because, you brought up they blew that Seahawks game, but remember they also blew that Eagles game too.
Yeah, it's true.
So I'd probably go with and Stafford is, as of right now, unless someone else just goes crazy the last 2 weeks and he just goes in the toilet, I think Stafford's going to get MVP, and so I'd probably go with the Rams.
All right, so we're in agreement. Next question.
Who's the best team in the AFC?
So we kind of went through this exercise maybe an hour ago, and did we both land on Buffalo? Now, Buffalo obviously is, right now they're not winning their division. So, again, their path is going to be a little, arduous. But I think Buffalo's got the highest ceiling, and that includes New England. And I think, for me personally, it includes Denver. So, I don't know if they've been the best all year, but I think I would take them over the field in the AFC with Josh Allen.
The crazy thing about the AFC is these are the top seeds in the AFC. The Broncos, the Patriots, Jacksonville is the third seed.
I know, they're like 11-4.
Pittsburgh, who everyone laughed at when Rodgers went there and was like, oh, they're going to win 4 games. They're not going to make the playoffs. Pittsburgh's the 4 seed. So, Buffalo, if the season ended today, they'd be a 6 seed.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So,
6 seed. Yeah,
it's just crazy how everything's shifted so much to where in the NFC, everything's kind of close, but it's a lot of the same players that have been there. They're just kind of in different positions. This year, it's just, like I said, the top 4 teams are all teams that nobody would have put in there, especially Jacksonville and Pittsburgh.
And also, the way the NFL postseason is, that's so hard. When you're the 6th seed now, just road game after road game after road game. The additional game as opposed to the 1 seed, which has the bye. It's just, I'm not saying you can't do it. It just feels really hard to do it. Last question.
Will the Aztecs be the favorite in the Pac-12 next year?
All right, so this from a football perspective. So the reason we bring this up is that we learned over the last 24 hours that the Aztecs have retained some key pieces. One of their tackles, Joe Bourgeon, announcing on social media he will be back. Lucky Sutton yesterday on social media announcing he will be back as well. Lucky's actually going to join us coming up at 5 p.m. Earlier today, Malachi Finau, defensive tackle, announcing he will return. I go back to last year for Sean Lewis. Coming off his initial season, the team goes 3-9. Where did he do the work? He did it in the offseason. He retained Trey White. He retained Chris Johnson. Think about these players. Owen Chambliss, their center, they retained. Jordan Napier, the talented wide receiver, they retained. I'm missing others. Joe Bourgeon, actually, last year they retained. He was coming off a knee injury. But I thought the legwork they did in December, January last year laid the foundation for what we saw, where they took a big step from 3-9 to 9-3. And I think going into next year, the Pac-12, okay, so you got Washington State and Oregon State. They're coming off, Oregon State was awful. Washington State just went 7-6 and won their bowl game. You look around the Pac-12, Utah State was good in their first year under Bronco Mendenhall. Boise State lost 5 games this year. I think I have that right. They lost their bowl game. They ended up losing a 5th game. Aztecs obviously beat Fresno State this past year. Texas State is kind of taking a step up, you could argue, heading into the Pac-12. The point is, I think the Aztecs will be right there in the conversation to reach a Pac-12 championship game. You're going to have 8 football playing members. And I think San Diego State, if they're not the favorite, I think they'll be among, let's say, 2 or 3 favorites. Of course, Boise State's always right there. I mean, if you've watched the last 25 years of Boise State football, they've played for conference championships a lot, to their credit, and they deserve that credit. They were in the college football playoff 2 years ago. But I think San Diego State is going to be in that conversation, A, with Boise, and potentially with someone else that emerges. I think Fresno is fully capable. I think a Utah State or a Washington State, I could be convinced. But I think Sean Lewis has this program clearly pointed in the right direction. And I think there's going to be a lot of prognosticators. Now, this doesn't guarantee anything. But I think there's going to be the hype now. Like heading into this year, there was not the hype. We said it locally, like, hey, they kept a lot of pieces. Like if everything is put together, the Aztecs are capable of not just reaching a bowl game, but being better than that. I think heading into next year, Brent, it goes from, whoa, they won 9 or 10 games and Sean Lewis is here for a third year. Maybe all of a sudden this team becomes the favorite or a favorite in the Pac-12.
Well, because they're going to start to have expectations after that happens. I was going to say that I think Sean Lewis has done a great job of just retaining players. I remember at the end of last year, like last couple of games, like there's a lot of fan panic about, just because, and obviously, they don't have the NIL money that, schools like Oklahoma or somebody like that would have, to where a lot of the fans kind of went in a panic to where, oh God, any players that we have that are good, Trey White, any of these guys, they're going to be gone because, some big blue blood school is just going to come right out a blank check and they're just going to steal all of our players away and none of it's going to matter. And they all stayed.
Correct.
All the ones that mattered all stayed. And we're kind of starting to see the same thing this year already. And they're not even they got their bowl games not until Saturday, but we're already see, more key pieces just saying, no, I'm going to stay. I could go someplace else and chase the money, but we think we got something, starting to brew here and I'm going to stay.
Man, I'll tell you what, the retention piece, look at what San Diego State basketball has done. And like one of the keys this year, and I still think it's going to be a significant factor, is they kept, Miles Bird could have gone anywhere if you wanted. Reese Dixon Waters could have gone anywhere. You have these younger players, the Pharaoh Comptons and the Taj DeGourvilles, a Miles Heide, a BJ Davis. So many of these players returned. And I think ultimately San Diego State's going to be better off for it. Same thing with football, to your point. I think one of the most underrated parts of the portal, everyone gets enamored by the newcomer. Oh, you've added this quarterback. You've added this defensive tackle. What about the pieces you kept? Because that, to me, gives you the opportunity to take the leaps forward. And to your point, I think we saw it with Sean Lewis this past year with his team. I think we'll see it again. I think they have the resources necessary. They're not going to retain all pieces, but I think they'll retain enough that's going to put them in a position to be successful. You look at what basketball has done again with the Mesa Foundation. It's been incredible. I mean, up against budgets that are massive. You look around college basketball landscape. Look at the Michigans of the world, the Arizonas, the Kentuckys, the Kansases. It's not easy, but it also speaks to what can be accomplished here. I think playing for Brian Dutcher, you can get to the NBA. Playing for Sean Lewis, I think they believed in Sean. He's talked about this. There wasn't the proof and concept when they went 3-9, yet players elected to return. So what does that say about Sean and his staff, that players trusted him? And it's not because they were getting the most money. It's because they believed in what Sean was building and what this program is capable of. And I think they've reaped the rewards of that to some extent in 2025. And hopefully that continues in 2026. And speaking of the Aztecs, Lucky Sutton will join us at 5. And you're going to hear from Dave Velasquez coming up at 5:30 following that game Saturday night in Phoenix against the University of Arizona. We've got Lakers basketball tonight coming up at 5:45. Don't go anywhere. This is John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, guys, it is John and Jim again for the all-new Hamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. We've been telling you about the hotel and spa at Hamul. Now open. It is the next level of luxury. It has arrived. You can treat yourself to a stunning new stay. Rooftop relaxation, indulgent spa treatments, all the thrills of Hamul Casino Resort. Now all in one unforgettable destination. They've got great food, including Hamul 23. Endless dining every day. You can savor San Diego's ultimate endless dining experience at Hamul 23. From their world-famous lobster brunch, served every morning, to the luxurious VIP endless dining experience each evening. You can indulge in chef-curated specialties, fresh seafood, prime cuts, and decadent desserts, all with stunning panoramic views. And you're going to love the spa as well. That's open, unwind in style, experience pure relaxation with indulgent treatments, serene spaces, and a retreat designed to refresh your body and mind. Only at Hamul Casino Resort, the Players Place. All right, San Diego Sports 760 congratulates all our $5,000 winners from last semester. And iHeartRadio's Thank a Teacher, powered by Donors Choose. There's still time for you to nominate a public school teacher making a difference, and maybe they'll be one of our next winners of $5,000. To make over their classroom, you can help us say thank you to the educators shaping our future. Nominate your favorite teacher now at iHeartRadio.com/teachers. Sponsored by Sesame Workshop. Is that right? Okay. What's Sesame Workshop? Like Sesame?
Yeah, like Sesame Street.
Yeah, I like Sesame Street.
You know that thing that Elmo keeps begging for money? That's Sesame Workshop.
Okay. Now I remember. That's hilarious. A couple of things. Brent just mentioned something to me off air. He's like, "Who do you have, scheduled to join for Jim's final show?" Jim's final show being Monday, coming up after Christmas, so 6 days from now. And I told Brent, because this is the truth. I'm like, I haven't spent 1 second thinking about it. So what's going to happen is here's the thing. I'm going to take everyone behind the curtains. And I say this with as much respect as I can. But I need to be honest. Jim did nothing behind the scenes for the show. I mean, literally nothing. Now, he would create a graphic to his credit for like the YouTube stream. He's very good technically. He would do a lot like on social media. But like, did Jim ever book a guest? No. Did Jim spend all morning on the rundown? Let me answer that for you. He doesn't even know how to like access the document. It's Jim. You take the good, you take the bad. So the point is, I'm prepared to be the one to orchestrate his final show because I've orchestrated the other 4 years of his shows. But I mean, how much, what am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to spend 12 hours on it and, have, the vice president of the United States call in? I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know why he would, but I think we hopefully will be able to get, some of the friends of the show, so to speak, the Annie Halbrins, the Darnay Tripps, the Darren Smiths. I think they would love to come on, maybe roast Jim. Beyond that, Brent, I mean, what are you thinking? I mean, you mentioned a couple of names like the Mike Costas and the Steve Hartmans.
Because he was one of the, producers of the Cannons for a long time. So
what did you say? I had completely forgotten. In the 4-year history of John and Jim, I never referenced Jim, what you told me off.
Oh, because Costas used to always call him Little Ham Hock.
Little Ham Hock.
Yeah.
What kind of nickname is that?
Whenever they would do their goodbyes and sign-offs at the end of the show, that is how Costa would address Jim. He'd be like, thanks to Steve and Ernie and Lil Ham Hock and Jim Russell, he would call him.
Is there, let me ask our listeners this, or viewers. You can text us 70470, start it with team. You can call us 877-767-4760. Is there someone you would like to appear on the show on Monday on Jim's final day? Like
Xander Bogaerts?
It's not happening. I don't think Manny Machado is calling in, or AJ Preller, but is there someone I'm missing? Do you want to hear from Kevin Acee? Do you want to hear from Will Brinson? Is there someone else that I'm not thinking of right now, just off kind of the cuff, that should join us? Is there, like you said, maybe a host or a former host or someone that's worked here previously that should call in? Because we're going to have 3 hours and 15 minutes. We have Monday Night Football that night at 5:15. But we'll still have a long enough show from 2 to 5:15 next Monday. But I don't know if there's anyone I'm missing, I guess is the point, that needs to be on the show. Like, do we need like a Mark Willard who he like engineered for or produced for back in the, how on earth did Jim produce the show?
I don't know. He forgot.
He forgot how to produce, or he forgot to do it?
Well, he forgot how to produce.
Yeah, no,
that was evident that one day I was actually not here and he had to run the board.
Yeah, exactly. That was terrible. That was so terrible. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun show. I'm looking forward to it. Monday, 2 p.m., final show of the Jim Russell era. He announced on Friday his reasons for departing, which is we completely understand and respect. It is the end of an era. He's out of the business. Now, we're still doing the wrap-up show. So we're going to be doing the wrap-up show on YouTube in 2026, hopefully beyond as well. It's going to look different than the wrap-up show used to look. Because you can't, I mean, if you're Jim and you're in the suburbs of Philadelphia and the Padres are playing the Dodgers, the game ends at, 10:05 p.m., right? Let's just say that, 10:10 p.m. Pacific. And then by the time you hop on the stream, 15 minutes later, it's now 10:25 Pacific. You're on the air until 11:30, 11:45. I mean, you have some shows you're on the air for an hour and a half or 2 hours. All of a sudden, it's midnight Pacific. Well, that's 3 a.m. in Philadelphia, even using Jim's math. So we're not going to be able to do that as frequently, but we're going to do shows some nights, daytime, kind of like the day after as well on the wrap-up show. So we'll still be doing that in 2026. And this channel will continue to exist. We're just going to change the name of the channel. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening on San Diego Sports 760 or on the iHeartRadio app, we'll still be with you each and every day. Just the name of the show is going to change. I'll have a new co-host, in fact, in 2026. If you have an idea for a co-host, you can you can tell us that as well. All right, we're going to get back to the Padres on the other side. Lucky Sutton will join us coming up
Maybe
at
that's
5
what we
p.m.
We can just combine Jim's last show and co-host auditions to where while you're roasting Jim and saying goodbye, you can also audition to replace him.
That's not a terrible idea. We might have to get like a Ben Fadden on the show since they're like rivals. Although Jim was on Ben Fadden's show, I think, in the last 24 hours. Okay, we're going to get back to the Padres who miss out on Ryan O'Hearn. Where do they turn from here? Plus, Lucky Sutton joins us at 5 p.m. And Dave Velasquez, the longtime Aztec assistant, men's basketball, of course, right now to Brian Dutcher. We caught up with him Saturday night after that loss to number 1 Arizona. You'll hear that conversation coming up at 5:30. This is John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by USA Fencing. The Aztec football team's getting ready for their New Mexico Bowl matchup against number 25 North Texas on Saturday. Our pregame coverage starts at 12:45, and John and Rich will have the kick around 2:45. In NFL news, Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy has a very, very small hairline fracture, according to Coach Kevin O'Connell, and will not play in the team's Christmas Day game against Detroit. Rookie backup Max Brosmer will start, but the Vikings have not ruled out McCarthy from playing in their final regular season game against Green Bay. Tonight we have Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when the team takes on the Suns. They'll be doing that without Luka, though. He's just been ruled out with a calf injury. Pregame coverage starts at 5:45, and the tip will be after 6. Ever wanted to try an Olympic and Paralympic sport? Try fencing. It's fast, safe, and easy to start. Find a beginner class near you at usafencing.org/tryfencing. That's usafencing.org/tryfencing. Yeah, try it, John. Fencing.
Try fencing.
Give it a try.
It's one thing I've definitely never tried nor will. I'm confident to say if I lived 130 years, okay, like the oldest person on earth, the one thing I will not do between now and my death will be try fencing. Who has ever tried? What's more likely?
Not enough people, obviously. That's why they're putting the word out.
I guess that's a good point. What's more likely? Like, what's the rarest sport to try? Fencing is up there. I think luge.
I was just gonna say luge
who has access.
One of the luge. What's the one when skeleton?
Oh, skeleton. Yeah. Skeleton is luge.
Well, it's only that's the face first one.
Oh, I ain't doing that.
Yeah,
I'm not doing any of them. I mean,
but regardless, you need the track or whatever you call it that they go down. So,
dude, exactly. It's like, first of all, whoever does that, like, hey, let me just hop on this bobsled track and go down 1,000,000 miles an hour for a first time. Like, how do you prepare for the first time you go down one of those?
Do you have a little disregard for your life?
Like on a water slide? Like, hey,
USA bobsled.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. So we started the show by talking about this move in baseball. Lucky Sutton, by the way, Aztec tailback, will join us live at 5 p.m. We'll hear from Dave Velasquez, San Diego State men's basketball assistant at 5:30. Lakers basketball against the Suns tonight at 5:45. We started the show today talking about this move that the Pirates made of all teams, which was to sign Ryan O'Hearn, the former Padre. He came over after the deadline, a little bit of like a do-everything guy for the Padres because he wasn't platooning. He was playing against lefties and righties. Actually, initially he was platooning. It was a big conversation in August. Eventually, he was an everyday player for the Padres. And, we heard Manny Machado say at the end of the season, like, we should bring back Ryan O'Hearn. Like, he actually said that. We played you the audio earlier from Marty Caswell where he said we should bring back Ryan O'Hearn. Do we have it? This was Manny Machado just talking about the priorities of the Padres. Take a listen to this interaction between Manny Machado and Marty Caswell.
Manny, how confident are you that the organization will make the right changes to go ahead and make sure that you guys are in a better position for next season?
I hope so. There's no better way than what we did this year with what we had. Cut payroll, and we do what we do. Hopefully we bring back O'Hearn, we bring back other guys that need to be here. The team is ready. The team's ready. We fell short this year, but we're confident in the group that we have that we can go out there and repeat it every single year. So, I hope they continue to do that and listen to us and ultimately listen to the fans that want to bring championships to City of San Diego.
I guess not. He specifically said Ryan O'Hearn. He specifically said as well the Padres cut payroll between 2024 and 2025. So anyway, the point is O'Hearn was obviously liked enough in the clubhouse. And then I think externally from the fan base, just because of his production, I thought Ryan O'Hearn did enough to warrant consideration for coming back. But on the other side of that equation is, he hit for power, but he didn't hit for crazy power. And he's a left-handed bat. The Padres already have a left-handed heavy lineup. They need more slug. He's a guy that does play a corner position. Now that they've missed out on Ryan O'Hearn, who goes to Pittsburgh 2 years, $29 million. Now, I don't think this is where they turn, but hopefully they don't turn back to Luis Arraez, who played a lot of first base for the Padres this past year. I would much prefer Ryan O'Hearn to Luis Arraez, considering the needs specifically of the Padres. Arraez, in the right spot in a lineup that has a ton of power throughout. Okay, maybe that makes more sense. Maybe Arise coming off a better year than the year he just had. Maybe that makes more sense. But Luis Arise for me is a no. And then you start talking about some of these other options. We talked about like Murakami, who signed with the White Sox. And then there was another Japanese slugger's name that came up via phone call earlier today that might ultimately present an option for AJ Preller. Then there's other names via free agency, and some of them are good, or some are compelling, or some aren't. What is the budget that the Padres are working with at first base? And the reason today isn't more of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they lost out on Ryan O'Hearn, and I'm not going to absolutely like vilify them for it, is because we're days removed from them landing Michael King. If they had not landed Michael King, if they had not landed Ryan O'Hearn, if they had already lost out on Dylan Cease, even though I wasn't advocating for him to come back, if they had already missed out on Robert Suarez, which they have, at some point you're going to look up and be like, well, are you going to retain anything? Are you going to bring anyone back? Are you really trying to compete to the best of your ability in 2026? I'm not going to go down that path today because I thought the Michael King signing was the most impactful signing they could make. I think it was more important than Dylan Cease. I think it's more important than Robert Suarez. And truthfully, I think it's more important than Ryan O'Hearn. I like O'Hearn. And all things being equal, I think if they had the money, I would have paid it to him. I think it's reasonable. It's a little high, maybe 15 a year is a good amount of money. I don't even know if he's playing every day. He's a guy that platooned a little bit last year, has not hit left-handed pitching a ton in his career, but did hit it in 2025. So I understand looking elsewhere. Maybe you can get similar production from Ryan O'Hearn for 2/3 of the cost or half of the cost. Maybe you get it for $7 a year. Maybe you get it for $5 million a year or 8 or 9. And he's going to get, he gets the multiple years. He's not a kid. I think he's 32 or 33 years of age. So I understand the trepidation from the organization perspective, if there was trepidation, but he was a free agent and he ends up going to the Pittsburgh Pirates. And again, we started the offseason by saying, hey, they need to find slug this offseason. Then we spent 2 months worried about pitching because Dylan Cease walked and we thought Michael King was going to walk. And Yu Darvish announces his retirement and Joe Musgrove's coming off Tommy John and Robert Suarez, departs the organization. So we spent 2 months talking about starting pitching. And then now that they address starting pitching with Michael King, I don't think that's their final, way to address their starting pitching. But now that they've kind of done that, now I turn my attention back to the offense. And when I learned that they miss out on Ryan O'Hearn, again, I'm not sitting here overly concerned in the middle of December or late in December, like, oh no, here we go again. They're going to have the 28th highest slug or the third worst slugging percentage in baseball and the third fewest home runs hit in baseball again in 2026. I don't think that. I really don't. I think they can get more production from their lineup in 2026. But I do believe how much more production is a fair question. Because I don't think they go from, the third lowest slugging percentage in baseball to the sixth best slugging percentage in baseball. I don't believe they go from the third worst home run hitting team to the seventh best home run hitting team. I just think they could use something to help them along the way. Whatever that looks like. And it's probably going to be a flawed individual. They're not going to, they're not going to go get a guy that is going to hit 300 and hit 50 home runs. Like, obviously that's not happening, but can you go find someone that can run into more balls than anyone was running into last year that played first base for the Padres? Can you find someone that's capable of hitting 25 to 30 home runs that supplements your lineup when you add him to the Machados and the Merrills and the Tatises? And then of course you're asking Machado, Merrill, Tatis to also perform or take a next step as well for you in 2026. So again, I didn't expect Michael King to be here, and he's here. I kind of expected at the beginning of the offseason maybe Ryan O'Hearn would be back, and he's not here. So there's going to be twists and turns, and more are ahead. Could still be a sizable trade. Could still be a sizable subtraction. I haven't even really talked about that. They still could part ways with salary. They still could make an impactful signing. Maybe they're committed to spending more money. It's hard to truly know. The organization, I do think it's fair to say, is in flux at the very least. I mean, they are exploring a sale. They've said that publicly. So it's not complete business as usual, even if they want to lead you down a path of business as usual. But I would say we're going to get to opening day in 2026, and I know what our expectations are going to be. The expectations are going to be for the Padres to get to the postseason, to find a way to get to the postseason. I don't think the expectations are going to be to win the NL West. I don't think the expectation is to be better than the LA Dodgers to start the year. I do think the way they've committed and spent and the 90-win seasons in each of the last 2 years, I know the fan base is going to expect a lot, and I think they should. I absolutely think they should. And, you go back to this point. The more you make the postseason, at some point can you break through? They've had moments, 2022, 2024 to some extent, although they lost, of course, in 5 to the Dodgers. It's about getting in, playing your best baseball at the right time. We touched on this earlier today. Michael King, I'm not as worried about what he looks like in April. I'm much more concerned about September and October. Same should be said for Joe Musgrove for me. And same should be said for Manny Machado, who was on fumes in September of last year. He was on fumes in September of last year. I want to see the key pieces play at their best when it matters the most. Whatever that takes, however they can position themselves to do that, that's what I hope to see in 2026. I think it's realistic. I don't think it's impossible. I don't think it's, something where we're like hopeful. I do think it's realistic, and I hope we see it in 2026. All right, Lucky Sutton will join us coming up at 5 p.m. We can get into some of these options at first base for the Padres this offseason as well. On the other side, Dave Velasquez. If you missed our conversation with him Saturday night after that loss to number 1 Arizona, I found it to be very insightful and transparent. You're going to hear that coming up at 5:30. And again, we have Lakers basketball tonight, pregame coverage against the Suns coming up at 5:45. This is John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, John and Jim. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Lucky Sutton will join us coming up in about 13 minutes. The Aztec tailback announcing on social media yesterday he'll be back for his senior year out of Cathedral Catholic, putting together just a terrific year, over 1,200 yards, just a key part of the offense for the Aztecs, who will return to Sean Lewis in 2026. He'll join us live coming up in about 10 or so minutes. You'll hear from Dave Velasquez, San Diego State men's basketball assistant, at 5:30. This followed the game they played against number 1 Arizona on Saturday night. And again, Lakers basketball coming up at 5:45 tonight against the Phoenix Suns. So you told me earlier, this was interesting to me, that we're in the midst of this huge week. I hadn't thought about this for a streamer in Netflix. They had the Jake Paul fight over the weekend, which drew serious attention. There's a reason why these fighters are getting the money they're getting, right? How many viewers?
33 million.
So 33 million. He breaks his jaw. Right.
Which is awesome. It's about time.
In this fight. So he's got the jaw broken in like multiple pieces. But again, Netflix has said since day one that the way they are in the business of sports is in these like event style broadcasts. Like they haven't taken as much of a liking to like, oh, let's air baseball every Sunday, or let's have an NBA game of the week. They've been more inclined to have like home run derby, event, boxing match, event. To come in NFL standalone doubleheader on Christmas Day, right? They have back-to-back games on Christmas Day, don't they? I don't know that we talked about this before. It's ending up not being the schedule they were probably hoping for, right? I forget the games that are on Christmas Day. Those first 2 games. I'm going to look.
It's Minnesota. Detroit is one of them.
Okay, of course.
The McCarthy.
Detroit's in a tough spot, obviously, to make the postseason right now. Let's see.
Chiefs is one of them.
Yeah, so you get what day is Christmas? The 25th?
Thursday.
Cowboys, Commanders. Okay, right? It's still the Cowboys. So it's still the Cowboys. And then Lions, Vikings, 8-7 Lions, 7-8 Vikings.
This is one of those things when they made the schedule.
Sounds
like,
great.
This is going to be awesome. And then it's like, oh, man, the Vikings, they kind of suck this year. And Detroit isn't what they were last year. And the Chiefs, we don't have enough time to get started on how they're not like they were last year.
Well, yeah. Now you have Broncos Chiefs on Prime Video on Christmas night, but even that, no more Patrick Mahomes, and the Broncos are 12-3 and the Chiefs are 6-9. But like Cowboys, Commanders, all right. Cowboys 6-8-1 out of the postseason. Commanders, we know, are out of the postseason. They've had an awful year. And then Lions, I don't think they're making the postseason. In Minnesota against the Vikings, where JJ McCarthy again has been in and out constantly. Again, will the viewership be there? Of course, it's Christmas Day. I'll be curious to see what numbers we get for that.
You're not going to tune in to see Max Brosmer go for the Vikings. Do you know where he went to college, John?
I should.
Yes, you should. That's a hint.
Max Brosmer?
Yes.
Where?
Minnesota.
Oh, interesting. I didn't realize that. I did not realize that.
I didn't either. I never heard of him until I typed his name in for the
I'm like, I've never heard of that. But this is an interesting week in general because the NFL has kind of taken over holidays like Christmas when it works in their schedule. And used to be the NBA was king this time of year. This was kind of the introduction to the season for like a decade plus. You'd have like the 5 games on Christmas Day, but now the NFL has become king.
Well, dude, I remember when I was a kid, when we were kids, we were the same age, that Christmas Day, the only thing that was on for sports was NBA.
Yep.
And the Hawaii Bowl.
Absolutely. The Hawaii Bowl was on forever on Christmas Day. They've moved it to Christmas Eve, I think.
And those were like your only 2 options. Because like outside of like me and my one cousin, I don't live in a big NBA family. So I would be the only one that would be like, hey, let's turn on the basketball game. Everyone else would just have to watch it, not out of necessity, but there wasn't nothing else to watch. So we would just have it on. But now there's so much stuff. And I'm kind of worried about Thursday now because I'm worried Netflix might have bit off more than they can chew. Because not only do they have the NFL doubleheader on Thursday, the second part of Stranger Things season 5 also comes out on Thursday morning.
Everyone's going to be on that platform.
Just Stranger Things part 1 for season 5, like made Netflix crash for like an hour that first night. So now you're going to take all of the Stranger Things traffic and combine it with NFL football on a Christmas day. I'm kind of...
You're concerned.
If they get through the day without having any glitches, kind of like remember when they had the Paul Tyson fight when they had like the little hiccups in between. If they don't have something like that, I'm going to be amazed.
Yeah, I will as well. But it is like it's going to be an interesting, just Christmas Day in general. Again, the NFL has been more in that category. You got the NBA. We've got bowl games this time of year, obviously, right now. By the way, I saw the ratings came out for the first round of the college football playoff. Surprise. The two games up against the NFL games did the worst, and it wasn't close. I mean, they put the JMU game and the Tulane game up against the NFL because they weren't as appealing, and that makes sense. They weren't as appealing as the other games. And the numbers actually are pretty striking. Let me find it real quick. So, for example, Alabama, Oklahoma wins the weekend, no surprise. 14.9 million viewers. Okay. Then Miami, Texas A&M, whatever that was, by the way. Like, it's like Penn State, Iowa. It was like a 6-4 game, but it was 10-3. That had 14.8 million viewers. So, okay, big numbers, 14.9, 14.8. Now you go up against the NFL. I'm talking about like Bears, Packers, right? And Tulane, Ole Miss, 6.2 million viewers, which still is not nothing. I mean, 6.2 million viewers, but that's not 14.8. Then JMU, Oregon, and maybe this was the game up against Bears, Packers. Was Bears, Packers at night?
Yes.
This is the game up against Bears, Packers. 4.4 million viewers for James Madison and Oregon. Now, Oregon jumped out to a huge lead. To JMU's credit, they somehow actually covered and lost 51-34. But like, I get it. Like from a financial perspective, is Alabama, Oklahoma going to be watched differently than James Madison, Oregon? Yes. But in the NCAA tournament, guess what? Like when Kentucky plays in the first round against, let me give you another like power team. Like when Kentucky plays, there's more people watching than when it's Boise State, NC State. But that doesn't mean Boise State, NC State couldn't be a great game in the NCAA tournament. So again, I think it was a little self-fulfilling here because they put Tulane and JMU up against the NFL games, and they didn't put Alabama or Texas A&M up against the NFL games. And then they get the larger viewership for Alabama and like a Texas A&M, which makes sense to me. Overall, the first round of the college football playoff had an average of 9.9 million viewers per game. I still think they need to figure out the playoff. I like it more than when they didn't have a playoff and we had BCS and then they went to 4 and now we're at 12. It still isn't, it needs to be fixed. I promise you that. It's better than what it was. I prefer to the alternative of no playoff, but to me, something still needs to be fixed and it's still off.
They need to find the happy medium.
Yeah.
Because, the problem that everyone had with BCS was we were leaving everything up to, a computer and it didn't have any human interaction to just put common sense, for lack of a better term, into when they're picking stuff instead of just doing everything by the numbers. So we ditch the computer and we just go to humans. But the problem with humans is, they're corruptible and they have agendas. So we go from the agendaless computer who just went too much into stats and everything to people with agendas that are worried about, pushing, their conferences and other things, to where we have to find something that's in the middle. We need something that has, the human element of common sense, but also doesn't, ignore the numbers just because they're not attached to school we don't want them to be.
Completely fair. I agree with that. Lucky Sutton, speaking of college football, the outstanding tailback for the Aztecs, coming off this 1,200-yard season, getting ready for Saturday's New Mexico Bowl, announcing on social media yesterday he'll be back for 2026. He'll join us live coming up next on John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, and live on the iHeartRadio app.
This report is sponsored by Progressive Insurance. The Aztec football team is getting ready for Saturday's New Mexico Bowl, and they take on number 25 North Texas. Our pregame coverage begins at 12:45. John and Rich will have the kick around 12:45 or around 2:45. Excuse me. In NFL news, Vikings quarterback JJ McCarthy has a very, very small hairline fracture in his right hand, according to Coach Kevin O'Connell, and he will not play in the team's Christmas Day game against Detroit. Rookie backup Max Brosner will start. And in other NFL news, this just came down. Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver DK Metcalf will miss the final 2 games of the regular season after his suspension for his altercation with a fan in Detroit on Sunday was upheld. He will now miss their final 2 games at Cleveland and against Baltimore. Tonight, we got Lakers basketball on San Diego Sports 760 when the team takes on the Suns. They're going to be without Luka, who has been ruled out tonight with a calf injury. Pre-game coverage starts at 5:45, and the tip is a little after 6. At Progressive Insurance, you can keep your career moving forward with growth opportunities, great pay and benefits, and one of the country's top workplaces. Go to careers.progressive.com and apply today. That's careers.progressive.com.
Getting you all set for that drive home. Let's just start the show. Here's John and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? This is the final hour of John and Jim. In fact, we have Lakers basketball against the Suns with pregame coverage at 5:45. You're going to hear from Dave Velasquez, San Diego State men's basketball assistant, postgame from Saturday night at 5:30. But right now, great to catch up with Lucky Sutton, San Diego State's outstanding tailback coming off a terrific regular season, getting ready for the New Mexico Bowl this weekend and announcing on social media yesterday he will return to San Diego State in 2026. Lucky, first of all, thanks so much for hopping on today. Hope you're doing well.
Hope you're doing as well. Thank you for having me.
So tell us about this decision. These are all big ones, obviously, in college athletics with the portal and with rev share and NIL. You've announced prior to this bowl game that you will be back in 2026. Of course, you're a San Diegan. You starred locally at Cathedral Catholic. What went into returning for another year here on the Mesa?
Yes, sir. When I signed that paper a couple years ago in 2021, I had a job to do, and I just want to finish that job. There's definitely some other schools interested hitting me up, but what I felt was to stay home and just being in San Diego, all the support. We still got a job to finish, and I know our coaches and everyone else is going to lead us there, and I'm just thankful and just happy with the decision.
It's interesting. Lucky Sutton is with us right now, San Diego State tailback, coming off a huge regular season. It's interesting because last year, as you know, you're on a team that goes 3-9. It felt as if one of the critical pieces of this jump was keeping so much of the talent from the 2024 team in 2025, including yourself. Is that another key for the next jump in 2026, retaining these pieces and making the next jump come your first year in the Pac-12?
Yes, sir. Definitely to just have all these guys. I wanted to start the train rolling and be a leader in that way and just show these guys that, we can really do something special. Again, we have some unfinished business. We had a good season, but we can have an even better season next year. And we have some more work to do, and I can't wait until next season.
What was it like for you? I know you've touched on this a lot, and for our listeners, you're the perfect example of waiting your turn and making the most of the opportunity, which in today's college athletics doesn't always happen. Sometimes when those are waiting for the opportunity, they depart to get the opportunity. Do you feel as if being in the position you were in the last couple of years made you better off or put you in a position to have all of this success this past year?
I would say so. I think, there's a lot of players or just this era of football that wants to take the short route or just want to go the easy route when things get difficult and there's some competition. They don't feel like it's their fault, but I don't know. I'm trying to say is that players don't want to be developed anymore. They want to go the easy route. They want to play right away, but sometimes not in every circumstance everyone's ready. So in my case, I felt like I wasn't ready. I felt like I could have played, but I just trusted in God, and
it definitely led me to his path. And I just want to show it as an example that you don't have to take the easy route. You can do it the hard way, and it will always work out for you.
That's extremely well said. Lucky Sutton with us right now. How much pride do you take? I know you're such a team guy, but how much pride do you take in being like another one of the tailbacks in the unbelievable lineage of San Diego State running backs? There's other great tailbacks in that running back room with you right now. But what does it mean to, have a year like this when other guys have been there, the DJ Pumphreys and the Ronnie Hillmans and the Rashad Pennies and the Marshall Falks? That must be extremely special.
Yeah, it definitely is. Coach Hagan, running back coach, had in the beginning of the year, he put up Donnell Pumphrey, Marshall Falk, Rashad Penny, multiple other running back greats at San Diego State, and said this is the standard. So I just want to live up to that standard and continue that on for any new coming running backs. And even in our room, we're definitely a room that we're going to show some great things.
What's next? Like in the development of a running back, like when you think about where you were coming in, 3-4 years ago to where you are now, obviously you've made great strides. What's next for you as you think about how you finish off your college career, whether it's, this weekend in Albuquerque against North Texas or next year in 2026, how do you see yourself moving forward in the opportunities ahead?
Definitely in the moment right now, it's to finish up the season strong, getting the 10th win. There's only a handful of teams here at San Diego State that's been a 10-win team, so that's definitely my focus right now. But thinking about the future is to have a season even greater than this season and be nationally known in a way that this is going to be a great season. So there should be some big things coming. I'm going to be working really hard this offseason with all my teammates, all my coaches and all that, but I'm definitely going for something big this next season.
Lucky Son with us right now, San Diego State running back in the midst of just a terrific year, over 1,200 yards, all the touchdowns on the ground, a big part of a rushing attack that has had a resurgence on the Mesa here in 2025. Lucky, what's it like playing for Sean Lewis and this staff? Because, I felt like a year ago, I think Sean has touched on this, like there wasn't necessarily a proof of concept coming off 3-9, yet all these players stayed. And now you go 9-3 and you're reaping the rewards. What's it like being inside the program? Because you've had multiple head coaches. What's it been like being under Sean Lewis these last 2 years?
Coach Lewis has done a phenomenal job this past year, this whole year, starting in last January, of just talking about restoring the program, finishing the climb, starting the climb in our sense last season, but he's just done a phenomenal job speaking to all of us, and he's definitely encouraged us and brought us to higher levels than we thought we were going to have this season. So definitely very appreciative for him and just all he has done.
What do you expect you've spent so much time in practice, whether it's with Jaden Danigal or Bert Emanuel Jr. or Kyle Crum or others? You've been with all these quarterbacks throughout the course of camp and into the season. What are your expectations for the opportunity that Bert Emanuel has coming up this weekend as well?
I'm really excited for him. He's really stepped up and done his job this whole season, but also in this week of prep, I'm really excited to what he does for this upcoming game, and just really excited for him and proud of him.
What's it going to take? Let's get to Saturday. So it's the bowl game. It's in New Mexico, where you just were about a month ago. A chance to kind of cleanse your palate from that game against the Lobos, and you're taking on like this unbelievable offense, which doesn't really impact you as a running back. You're not going to be on the field against North Texas's offense, but you got like a styles make fights kind of game. North Texas with their offense, San Diego State with the ground game and the defense. What is it going to take this weekend to earn that 10th win?
Just taking care of the every minor detail, all the little things, and playing to our standard. Not making any simple mistakes that we could have, basically just controlling the controllables. That's basically what I'm trying to say, and doing our jobs, and I think it will work out for us.
Yeah, last question would just be like, how motivated is the group? What's the lead up and the ramp up been like these last few days? I know you still have a couple of days of practice to get ready for Saturday. But what's the mentality of the group overall heading into this weekend?
It's some of the guys, it's their last time playing football or just playing football here at San Diego State. So just hearing all the seniors leaving and all that, that's definitely the motivation. We started a bond in the beginning of the year with this team, and it's really a brotherhood, and just playing for them is just definitely one of our motivations for this upcoming game. And we just want to play next to each other one last time and show what we can do for this 2025 team.
Lucky, congratulations on a great regular season. We're excited to see you this weekend in Albuquerque against North Texas. And of course, Aztec fans are thrilled that you'll be returning on the Mesa in 2026 as well. So thanks for taking time with us, and we'll see you this weekend in New Mexico, all right?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
All right, happy holidays as well. Lucky Sutton, outstanding tailback for San Diego State, and a terrific young man. We've had him on a couple of times, made the most of an opportunity, waited his turn. It is a great life lesson to see college athletes buck a trend. Got to be careful saying that. But right now, when you're a quote unquote backup, you know what happens around football? You leave, right? That's what happens. That's what you don't get an opportunity, you leave. Lucky Sutton last year, playing behind Marquez Cooper, had 5 attempts. You heard me right. Lucky Sutton had 5 carries in 2024 for a 3-9 team. You know what he did? He came back. And you know what he's done? He's taken advantage of the opportunity. 5.2 yards per carry, 1,237 yards, starting every game and 10 rushing touchdowns. He's been terrific. He was one of the top 10 running backs in America. He was a Doak Walker Award semifinalist. So he's a true example of, again, we get so enamored by this guy left and this guy took the paycheck. And then there's an example right here locally of someone that is coming off a 1,000-yard season. He's going to come back, and with health, he's going to have even a bigger season for San Diego State in their first year in the Pac-12 in 2026. And he's got a chance to go down and be remembered as one of the handful of better running backs in the history of the program. And the program is known for some of the best running backs in college football history. So he's just a good example of what college athletes or what college athletics still can be, whether it's locally or nationally. And again, you can listen to him right here Saturday, San Diego State, North Texas, kickoff at 2:45, pregame coverage a couple hours before that. The final game of the 2025 season, San Diego State and North Texas. You can hear it right here on San Diego Sports 760. All right, you're going to hear from Dave Velasquez. We're going to talk Aztecs basketball at 5:30. This is from actually Saturday night after the loss to number 1 Arizona. I thought it was a very insightful conversation. You'll hear it coming up at 5:30. Lakers basketball pregame coverage beginning at 5:45. Stay with us, John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760 and live on the iHeartRadio app. All right, John and Jim. We didn't do the like super sports radio cliche, like what's on your Christmas list, sports fans? But we could still for a few minutes. If you missed Dave Velasquez following Saturday's game in Phoenix, you're going to hear from Dave Velasquez, longtime Aztec assistant, terrific coach. You'll hear from him coming up at 5:30. I just found it insightful, kind of like where the Aztecs are now. And of course, they played one since then, but it was a Division III game. They blew Whittier out the other day. But I do think it's insightful to hear like kind of where they are right now in this part of the season, coming out of the non-conference into the teeth of the conference schedule. You're going to hear from Dave Velasquez coming up at 5:30. And then, oh, by the way, Lakers basketball tonight, 5:45. Lakers and Suns from Phoenix, Arizona. We do have shows for you before the start of the new year. So Jim's final show is going to be on Monday. John and Jim will come to an end. There'll be a new version of my show, whatever that's going to look like, come next Tuesday, a week from today. But Jim's final show is going to be on Monday. We're going to do, I think, a Jim roast is what we've decided. And by we've decided, I think even Jim decided that. So we're going to roast Jim. We're going to have some special guests. You're going to want to be here on Monday. We've got all kinds of coverage for you over the course of the weekend. We have the New Mexico Bowl, again, for you coming up on Saturday. I'll be there with Rich Orenberger. Pre-game coverage will originate from there as well because Ben Fletcher is going to be engineering for us this weekend. So we've got you covered this weekend, San Diego State and North Texas. Bowl games, man, it's tough to really know what to expect is what I would say. Outside of the CFP, even the CFP, you don't really know what to expect because it's sports. But in the bowl season, and we've had it on throughout the course of the last week or so in studio, you don't really know. Are teams motivated? How many opt-outs are there? The transfer portal, motivation levels. So you don't really know what you're getting into. I think San Diego State's going to be fully motivated. I think they're playing a really good team. I mean, North Texas was a win away from being one of the playoff teams. They lost the American Championship game. They went 11-2 this year, and they scored 45 points per game. So like a very good team. Now they've had a head coaching change. Their head coach is at Oklahoma State. So they've got an interim head coach. Their quarterback threw for 4,000 yards. Is he going to play? I'm not sure. I think his intent is to enter the transfer portal. He may play. I'm not sure what the intention is of the quarterback for North Texas. But I think San Diego State's very motivated. And I do think it means something. Again, I think it's a little bit of house money. You win it, 10 wins, awesome. You lose it, and you're like, well, look at what's happened with bowl season. Like you could kind of explain it away if you don't win the game. So again, we'll have that for you coming up Saturday afternoon. And then come next week, I'll be on the road, I think, for a portion of Tuesday's show. I'm going to be in Northern California, San Jose State, San Diego State, as the Aztecs get back into conference play a week from tonight on the men's basketball side. And in the days ahead, again, we'll be with you each and every afternoon here on San Diego Sports 760. You'll hear a little bit of Jonathan Rifkin, J-Riff. Days that I'm traveling, he might have a couple of hours of a show. I'll have a couple hours of a show, but certainly we'll be with you this holiday season and into 2026 as well. And then I think the story, locally in local sports in 2026 is Padres. Are they going to be sold? Like, honestly, what's a bigger story than that? What they do on field. Do they make another trip to the postseason? Do they make a run in the postseason? That's way more meaningful, I think, for most Padres fans than who owns the team. At the end of the day, does it really mean everything? No, it's not something you think about day in and day out. But like the story heading into 2026 locally, that has to be right up there, right? In terms of off-field storylines, will the Padres be sold in 2026? And who will buy them? Who will be their owner? And whomever that is, you're talking about potentially a generation of Padres fans that will be impacted by that. That could be someone that owns the club for 10, 20 or more years. I mean, even a 5, 6, 7-year ownership is an extended period of time. And you think about this current iteration of ownership, it's kind of been under like one cluster for 10 plus years, right? The Seidler name was attached to that purchase whenever that was. You're going back 10 plus years. And then, yes, Peter unfortunately passed a couple of years ago. And then, of course, his family took over running the day-to-day operations. And now they're exploring a sale. And I think that, we get enamored with, Michael King's going to be back. And what are they going to do on field? That matters a ton, but so does who is running the organization. I mean, think about Peter Seidler's tenure. That had a direct impact on field. So it matters a lot. And I know a lot of San Diegans are going to be very curious to find out who is next. Is it going to be someone with San Diego ties? Is it going to be someone with deep pockets? Is it going to be someone that all they want to do is win? So there's all these questions that I don't even know if they're going to be answered in 2026. They don't have to sell the team. They may sell the team. Is 2026 the right year to sell the team with a lockout potentially coming in less than 12 months or at some point over the next roughly 12 months at the end of the 2026 season? So maybe now is the right time. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's on the other side of a CBA deal between the players union and ownership. But I think it's a massive story, obviously locally in 2026. And I don't think there's anything bigger other than what happens on field. On field always, to me, trumps anything that happens off field, by and large. I mean, by and large, people want to know, is this team going to win? Are they going to make a run in the postseason like they did in 2022? Will they find a way to get to a World Series finally under AJ Preller? Like all of that, of course, we're going to be talking about way more than who's going to buy the Padres. But there will be news. I do know that. There's going to be some amount of news when it comes to the future direction of the Padres, or maybe at the end of the day, the Sidlers decide it's best to hold on to the franchise. They'd be better served to do that. I think that the asking price, if you're curious, by the way, we saw this in the UT and elsewhere, the asking price for the Padres would be the richest sale in baseball history, which you might say, well, how's that possible? The Mets were purchased by Steve Cohen. You know, San Diego's not the largest market in the sport. How's that possible that the asking price is the richest in Major League Baseball? You know what it is? It's just a product of time. Like the more time passes as sales occur, that kind of sets the market for the other clubs. So we'll see, is what I would say. We'll see about 2026 for the Padres. Let's get back to the Aztecs on the other side. Dave Velasquez, if you missed him Saturday night, I thought it was really insightful. I think Aztec fans will enjoy the conversation after the Aztecs lost to number 1 Arizona, but now they turn their attention to conference play, which will kick off again next week in San Jose. Dave Velasquez, postgame from Saturday night on the other side. This is John and Jim, San Diego Sports 760, live on the iHeartRadio app.